Online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
So to sum it all up, guys, Kadarius Toney was offside. Von Miller was offside. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are better now.
Patrick Mahomes acting like that. Spoiled brat. Didn't get his way for once.
I probably regret acting like that. But more than anything, I regretted the way I acted towards Josh after the game because he had nothing to do with it.
The Bills seem to be finding their groove at the right time.
Cowboys coming to town this week.
Mike Danger.
Dallas looks good. There's not a lot to hate about Dallas as they come into Buffalo this weekend.
Gene Battaglia.
Name a hotter team right now than the Dallas Cowboys. This is quite the matchup, but you got to get past Dallas here. How did the Bills do this?
Dallas has not played well on the road. Buffalo's played fairly well at home this year.
The utterly shocking and extremely alarming choke job that the Dolphins pulled off last night.
Touchdown Titans!
It could come down to Week 18. That could be for the division.
What a throw by DeVito!
Tommy Cutlets.
He's Italian, Gino.
Go Sabres.
Let's go, Amherst.
Safe is down.
Thank you for listening to the show.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Of course the Giants won.
Hey!
Of course when you saw the Giants pregame, you see DeVito's family hanging around. Did you have any doubt that the Giants... Of course the Giants won. You know why? Because he's Italian. He's Italian. Of course Tommy Cutlets. What do you got there, Gino? Molto bene.
Yeah, I had to, the executive producer, she actually is way more Italian than I am. I'm sure she appreciates me just kind of because I'm like, what?
Using Google Translate? What is that?
No. No, that's the executive producer. Very good.
Oh, that's her saying molto bene.
Molto bene.
Yes.
So, we got to, he's Italian, but we got to come up with a little more lingo. And you can't speak the language. I can.
I could get by. I can't speak
if I said
fluently.
Molto bene.
Very good. I know what that. Yeah,
okay,
I've heard
molto
that
bene.
before. Yeah. What a great story. What a great story. It's the Jeremy Lin of this generation of New York sports.
It's almost like I feel like we have to explain what Jeremy Lin was. Or
right.
You forgot Jeremy Lin
Completely forgot.
Here was this kind of D League or G League. I don't even know what they called it back then. Somebody from Harvard, and all of a sudden he's just dropping 40 a night on Kobe Bryant and others, and all of a sudden everybody dead inside is a Knicks fan, and you're winning games. It's a lot of fun, and it burned out really quick.
Yeah, the Asian sensation. He was unbelievable for a stretch. His flame burned bright. Is it sustainable if you're Tommy DeVito? I mean, you're Tommy DeVito, and you look this year better than the quarterback that you invested all that money in Daniel Jones. It's funny to think that the Giants may have themselves a quarterback controversy, but I also can kind of hear Brian Daboll tempering everybody's like, yeah, the kid's playing really well. He's playing really good for us. And I think DeVito doesn't take for granted the spot that he's in right now, and also probably recognizes just how fleeting this moment may be.
They're one game out of a playoff spot. The Giants, we left for they are farting around, Danger, at 5-8. That's the difference between the two conferences. NFC really top heavy, and everybody a lot of mediocrity in the AFC.
Yeah, you got a lot of winning teams in the AFC, a lot of losing teams in the NFC. The Giants get the come from behind win, and the other upset, of course, last night on Monday Night Football, and it's a win that did the Buffalo Bills some favors. My bold prediction. It's looking more and more likely that Week 18 is going to act like a de facto playoff game between the Bills and the Dolphins.
Okay. You weren't right because you were saying next week. You were off by a few days, though. Oh, my God. Could you, how many people, myself included, okay, I got to work early, game off. They lost?
They lost.
They lost?
Yeah.
Tennessee had a 1% chance to come back in that game.
Complete choke job by the Dolphins. You had Tennessee on the... I mean, Tennessee didn't play a great game. They were fumbling the ball. There was all kinds of mental errors and turnovers. Just a sloppy game. And despite all that, they still leave Miami with the win. So now, what we were talking about yesterday, all that actually needs to happen for that Week 18 game to be for the AFC East, the Bills need to win 2 of 3. The Dolphins lose 2 of 3. and that game is for the AFC East.
I'd like to think the Bills win 3 in a row, and all Miami has to do is stub their toe once, and they get the Jets this week. And this league is a sine wave. I don't think the Dolphins were as bad as they were last night. They're going to be home again. But then, oh boy, on Christmas Eve you get Dallas, and then New Year's Eve you get Baltimore.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think you're escaping that scot-free. So if the Bills take care of business, America hasn't caught up to this, by the way, because I consume a lot of sports talk. Wow, the Dolphins really cost themselves the number 1 seed. Oh, no, they cost themselves a little more. It's almost like Buffalo is just kind of lying in wait here. Mm-hmm. It's like the country kind of moved on after those embarrassing losses with the Bills and Von Miller. And nobody's really paying attention to what might be happening here in Buffalo.
Yeah, no, it's as simple as that Week 18. That Week 18 game is going to be for it all. It's going to be for it all. I mean, you could very easily find a scenario here over the course of the next 3 weeks where the Bills win 2 of 3. Given their schedules, the Bills win 2 of 3, the Dolphins lose 2 of 3, and then it's Week 18 in Miami for the division.
Just to make it clear that if the Bills are 1 game back in Miami, that's all they need. They hold the tiebreaker because of the October 1st win. If you sweep the season series and end up with the same record, guess what? You're the division champs.
Yeah, I mean, this is how crazy the NFL is. In one night, you went from the Bills kind of like clinging to playoff hopes to now like it looking very, very real that they can make the postseason despite all of the shortcomings of this regular season, all of the dramatic losses and all of the adversities and all of the change and the firing of your offensive coordinator. You still have a very real possibility of playing for a division title come Week 18.
Yeah, and even if they don't get the game against Dallas, and I'm going to reserve my pick until later in the week. We're going to talk to some experts. We're going to figure out the Bills' health situation, amongst other things. You're facing Easton Stick. You're facing, we assume, Bailey Zappi. The news from L.A. today that Justin Herbert's out for the year, season-ending surgery on his finger.
I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of all these quarterbacks getting injured, all these star quarterbacks missing time. I mean, it's... and it's not like the NFL can do anything more to protect the quarterback. Like, they've done everything I think that they can at this point, but injuries still happen, and you're losing out on a lot of really, really good quarterbacks down the stretch here. And if it is a survival of the fittest, which the NFL is, I mean, you could very easily see a postseason where Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are on some sort of collision course to meet. I was playing around again with the playoff machine, and like there's a lot of scenarios where the Bills could get in as the 4 and the Dolphins end up the 5, where they would play each other 2 weeks in a row again.
But that would be up here.
Correct, because you would win the division. Yeah. Right. So there's so much that can happen between now and then. In the NFL, things change so quickly. And just last night with 2 upsets in Tennessee, by the way, that's the biggest upset victory in the NFL this year. I think they were 13.5-point underdogs going into that game.
You could get 14 in some spots.
That's right.
Night,
yeah. So Tennessee getting the win, the Dolphins taking the L and making it more certain that Week 18 game could be for the AFC East. We welcome you into the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Fun show planned for you this afternoon. Always love our Tuesday shows here on the Sports Leader. Thanks for listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950. We've got the stream up now. You can watch at the Fan Rochester on YouTube and Twitch if you so desire. We sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app. And you can get us on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. We're on Elon's Twitter. That's X, at The Fan Rochester. And our phone number is 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Let's quickly set the table here. The Amerks are on the road. And normally we would talk to head coach Seth Appert at 4:25. We're going to push that conversation to later on during last call, right before we close up shop at 6 o'clock. We'll talk to Amerks head coach Seth Appert.
Because they left this morning and they're on the practice ice right now in Springfield. So yeah, I don't think that would have been cool. Like, hey everybody, stop practice. Seth has to do talking to Danger Battaglia right now. Yeah. So Seth Appert coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today, right at the tail end of the show. We will be talking to Matt Perino, who was out in Kansas City. By the way, Matt was the guy who approached Von Miller, and Von Miller said no. Von Miller's not talking to the media, which Normally you get fined for that. How does that kind of work when you're kind of under these circumstances? It's one of the many questions we have for Matt Perino.
Perino also asked Joe Brady directly, like, hey, any consideration to, I don't know, running the ball on that final drive?
Well, this is the stat that I found alarming because, and you were down with the corona, right? And like we took a call, and I don't mean to pick on the caller, but like after the Bills won 2 games, McDermott should be out. Joe Brady should be the next head coach. Like, really? Could we see more? Well, James Cook touched the ball 2 times in the last 17 minutes. You also had the lead there in parts of that game in the fourth quarter too. So you had the hot hand. James Cook, in terms of
You know why? They don't trust him. They think he's going to put the ball on the turf. McDermott doesn't trust the young guys or guys that have made that mistake in the bit. Like, he doesn't trust that they will learn from those mistakes. He doesn't trust him.
James Cook has developed into the weapon that we're not talking about. You realize the receiving yards? Here's a fact for you. 83. That's the highest by a Bills running back since Fred Jackson in 2014.
There have been moments, and the touchdown against Kansas City is a great example of. There have been moments where it's like, oh, they're deploying James Cook the way we always thought they should have deployed James Cook this season and last season. So it's refreshing to see them using him, and the drop pass, against the Eagles is certainly something that I think is probably still weighing in the back of Sean McDermott's head. Like, okay, really, he can't hold on to the ball. The way they've used him under Joe Brady has been encouraging, but I still want more. I still think you can do more. I think you can use him more. I think especially when you're trying to eat clock and manage the game to a point where your opponent doesn't get the ball back. Yeah, why isn't James Cook getting more touches?
Look, James Cook is the running back. If he needs a breather, you give him a breather, and then when he's ready to come back in, you put him back in. Unless it's some goal line thing you have cooked up. No pun intended. Our phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Chris in Rochester. What's going on, Chris?
Hey, Chris.
Hey, guys. Great show today. I was just calling in and telling you about the whole bold prediction that Danger was talking about earlier, and how my bold prediction at the beginning of the year was that Kincaid was going to have more reception and receiving yards than Diggs, and they're pretty close on receptions, but they're quite far off on yards.
Yeah.
But I was looking up about you guys talking about James Cook, and he's almost at about 1,200 total yards for receiving and rushing, and only 2 fumbles. So he's got a case to be made that he needs more touches, or just he's fine with all the touches that he gets.
Yeah, I think it's always going to come down to McDermott, a lack of trust. Like if your trust is broken and you put the ball on the turf once, you're in the doghouse. I think it's just, I think it's one of his flaws. I think it's the way he's wired, and it's an insecurity. I remember, we all remember that the infamous game.
Which one?
The infamous game where you predicted week 1 of Survivor that the Kansas City boring Chiefs would go into New England. You remember how that game started for Kansas City, right? Like Kansas City won that game. Kareem Hunt fumbled first play of the game. And he was a rookie, and it would have been very easy for Andy Reid to say, you, young man, you sit down over there, and he never fumbled through his whole career in college. First NFL touch, balls on the turf. And he went right back to him. And he had a great game, and they won that game. And all I could think to myself is, how can Sean McDermott, who came up in that Andy Reid environment, how could he be just wired so differently? Like this just giant amount of distrust for a player that makes a mistake.
Chris, thanks for the call. Appreciate it, bud. It's that negative mindset that we talk about with McDermott. He's looking at the negative. The
ways things could go wrong.
Yeah, the ways things could go wrong. I want to look at this. Terms of NFL yards from scrimmage. Amongst running backs, where do you think James Cook ranks?
It's got to be top 10.
Try top 3.
Nice.
McCaffrey, number 1, of course. Yeah. And then you've got ETN. And ETN's lead on Cook is only 9 yards.
This is total yards, rushing and receiving.
Correct. Rushing and receiving. James Cook is underutilized. James Cook, now that we're entering the cold months of Buffalo, whatever it is, Can we get more of him? And they strayed away from that for whatever reason. It was almost like Josh Allen, okay, we need Josh to make plays here. No, you need to trust. A little less Josh, a little more James.
Well, and look, Josh has been pretty remarkable the last couple of weeks as well. I think that every game with Josh Allen, you just have to brace for that one boneheaded throw where it's like, okay, well, there it is. And hopefully it doesn't occur more than once. But that factors into it too. It's a coach who wants to play it so conservative and is so afraid of turning the ball over. And I understand that. I mean, like it's proven time and time again. You can't lose the turnover battle. Your chances of winning are going to diminish significantly. We saw what happened in New England. You spot them a 10-point lead. A bad New England team still had enough to beat you in the end because of those turnovers. So I understand the importance of protecting the football first and foremost. But what I don't understand is how you as an adult think that they, as your players, don't believe that they've learned from their mistakes. Like, oh yeah, I know, I meant to put the ball on the ground, coach. Please let me in the game so I can do it again, because that's exactly what I want to do.
Danger, I'm not sure how to respond to this text. Yesterday we were joined by Jay Binkley, 610 Sports in Kansas City.
Yeah,
and Chiefs. Chiefs post-game show host, and you could say Chiefs apologist. And this is well after the show. This is while the game's going on last night. And more takes he's dishing at me. So much.
This is Jay Binkley.
This is Jay Binkley, and he tweets me a photo, and again, it's looking like somebody from Miami lined up offside, and they didn't call it. So much for being a point of emphasis. Carl Jeffers has a personal problem with the Chiefs.
Oh, God.
Just keep his crew from calling Chiefs games.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Oh, boy. He knows better. He knows better. That's the language of losers. It's not Carl Jeffers. It's not a personal vendetta that doesn't exist. And by the way, you can watch any game in the NFL with any officiating crew, and you will find questionable calls. You will find calls that if your team loses, you will be mad about it for the next 24 hours.
Well, and Bart Winkler is great. He was on last night right after our show, and he didn't use jump the shark, but that's kind of what he was saying here was the Patriots went from the scrappy underdog team to how did they start winning games? And then at some point, we're not sure, but we just didn't like them. Whether it was the cheating scandals or it was just Belichick's behavior or whatever it was, America, by and large, just kind of turned on the Patriots.
Fatigue.
Well, that's where we're at with the Chiefs here. And maybe we have that moment where, like, they all of a sudden, on Sunday became less likable to the country.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the way Mahomes acted was petulant, and today he kind of took a step back on our Odyssey Sports sister station, 610 Sports in Kansas City. He did he did acknowledge, like, I can't act that way. And I feel horrible about the way, I'm paraphrasing, I feel horrible about the way I handled Josh after the game.
He should.
Like that there are kids watching. He's a role model. He can't act that way. He acknowledged it today, with the benefit of hindsight and cooler emotions. He looks back and says, yeah, I was being a dummy. He was being a dummy. And if he learns from that mistake, you probably don't see him do that again in the future. It was so out of character. I mean, it might be something that people look at and think, oh, I don't like that team anymore. I don't like that player anymore. I'm not there. I still think he's spectacular. And
I think, and Brandon, who I see last night, Coach Potter or Fisher brought us up. What about his arm? Like the footwork. Just like we blame the receivers, but Mahomes himself, can we just kind of look at it like something's off with him this year?
Yeah, I don't know that I see it just yet. I don't know that I've seen that. I do see the drops. I do see a lot of drops. A lot of drops. I see his wide receivers not able to squeeze it. I don't know what that is, other than your wide receivers aren't very good, right? They're not good guys. They're not good receivers. Tyreek Hill is a difference maker. If you didn't know what a difference maker Tyreek Hill is, I point you to last night's game where when he was out, that offense did nothing. They couldn't do anything without Tyreek Hill in that offense.
So the story was that Tyreek Hill's wife said, "Get back in there," and he went back in there in the second half. Brian writing in, okay, enough Bills talk. Tommy DeVito's agent on the sideline was television gold.
Now, is that his, because I saw the screenshots. I didn't see it live. Is that his agent or is it a family member? Is it like his brother? It's got to be like his brother or a cousin or something like that.
No, the guy's name is Sean Stellato. And he was dressed as a gangster. That is his agent.
Of course that's his agent. You know why, Gene? Because he's Italian! He's Italian! He's dressed like that. He's got the sweet pinstripe suit. He looks good on the field because he's Italian, Gene. Molto bene! He's Italian, capiche? Of course they would. It's Tommy freaking DeVito over here. He's Italian. It's my favorite. I'm all in on Tommy Cutlets.
Can we, like, Dino Babers doesn't deserve another job. That would be, if you were going to, hey, I'd like to apply for your head coaching position, sure. How didn't you win anything when you had Tommy DeVito as your quarterback?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I would ask the marketing director at Syracuse, how did you not use Tommy DeVito in Rochester?
Did the marketing director's last name end in a vowel? Because if it didn't, that explains everything you need to know. He's gold. He's awesome. I love it. I love the story. I think it's adorable. And I can't wait to see how it all plays out.
Did you know this? He lives at home.
Yes.
He lives at home.
He lives at home. Mom makes him cutlets. Tommy Cutlets is my favorite thing now.
What do I got? Everything I need.
Yeah.
Why?
You know, and he's approaching it and attacking it in a way that is humble, and he's not taking it for granted. And, you know, I think he understands how fleeting this could be. Because by this time next year, we could be watching Tommy DeVito holding a clipboard.
But that's actually leadership, when you kind of humble yourself and you need other guys in the offense and you know that you don't have the arm or the legs or whatever.
Yeah, you got leaders on that team respecting him. Kayvon Thibodeau, you know, hey, you know, they're like communicating. Like, it's not like he's a foreigner there, even though he's Italian. He's doing great. It's a great story. I can't wait to see how it plays out here the rest of the way. It is the NFL, and teams do figure you out, and he is limited. Remember the first time he came into a game? They didn't let him throw the football.
They lost, 10-3 to the Jets? Yeah. It was horrific.
And they wouldn't let him throw the football. They were afraid to unleash Tommy Cutlets. They didn't know what they had.
So don't tell me that Brian Daboll can't coach. He's coaching a little bit.
He's doing all right. He's doing all right. Because he's Italian. Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post. Matt Perino's Italian. Hey. That's why we have him in the sports bar. We'll talk some Bills and Cowboys. We'll recap Sunday's win in Kansas City as well. Next with Matt Perino.
You're listening to the Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Buffalo, a 2.5-point favorite over a 10-win team in the Dallas Cowboys. That's coming up on Sunday. Head coach Sean McDermott on this home game.
We move ahead to this week now. That's where our focus has to be. We've got to move ahead and got a very good opponent coming in here. And, we've got to obviously put our time in. It's going to be a big challenge for us. But at home, it's been a few weeks since we've been home, and we're looking forward to being in front of our crowd again here.
Team off today, practice resuming tomorrow. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard and the Shout podcast, joining us next year in the Sports Bar. Amherst's taking a road trip today. They're in Springfield this afternoon on the practice ice right now, actually. It's the first of 3 on the road, our weekly segment with head coach Seth Appert that's been moved to the 5 o'clock hour today. Sabres are in Colorado coming up on Wednesday. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
You got to do 2 things against this offense right now. You got to cover 88. If you can't cover 88, I don't care who you are. And you got to change coverage at the snap exotically. You can't just go from cover 2 to cover 3. You got to get Dak confused because right now he is firing on all cylinders.
It's ESPN's Dan Orlovsky earlier on One Bills Live. Ways that the Buffalo Bills defense can stop that potent Dallas offense. We'll talk about that matchup and more with Matt Perino, covering the team for the Syracuse Post-Standard. And back in town after a visit to Arrowhead that proved the Bills a victor at 20-17, and not without its own controversy. Matt, congratulations on getting out of there in one piece. Give us a taste of the atmosphere. Paint a picture, as they say.
Well, it's so funny because going back to Kansas City, it feels like a home away from home at this point. I think we did the math, and it's like 5 times in 3 years, or a little over 3 years. So going back there, everything just feels so normal. I mean, I've been there more than I've been in New England and Miami the last couple of years, and it's 2 teams that, listen, there's a rivalry there. It's built up over the last couple of years. The Chiefs have dominated it in the playoffs, but the Bills have now dominated it in the regular season. 3 straight wins in their house, and I think we saw the remnants of that frustration boiling over for Patrick Mahomes, maybe even a little bit Andy Reid after the game, and the way that they handled that scenario at the end of the game. I mean, their offense, outside of a couple of drives there, just wasn't good. They don't look like the same team. So I think it's a fan base, it's an organization that's not used to being in this spot where they've tried to find answers, and they're not finding them. The Bills probably come away with a much more a win that didn't feel so hard at the end if they don't have the turnover, and maybe they convert a little bit more on a couple more offensive drives. Even down the stretch with that game-winning drive, there were some challenges, like getting it, staying on schedule, getting to a play that they wanted to get to, converting and executing in spots to keep it going. And I asked Brady about that yesterday. I just posted a video about it. Just like 2:17 left. You want to get under the 2-minute warning to force them to start taking their timeouts. And, that drop by Stephon Diggs was significant. And it took a running play out of the mix there on 2nd down. So now you pass, it's incomplete again. Now you've completely changed the complexion of the game. So these are all little pieces of learning along the way for an offensive coordinator who now finally, we're coming up on a month on the job, which is a good thing because he's going to need to be as comfortable as possible on Sunday against this Cowboys team.
Yeah. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, our guest here. Matt, we were talking before you came on the air, and I think a lot of Bills fans would be surprised to know this, that if you had to say James Cook, where is he in terms of scrimmage yards? Is he top 10? No. He's actually top 3, and he's only 9 yards away from tying Travis Etienne. He's right behind, literally, Christian McCaffrey there. So I guess my question is, boy, they got away from it. Could we use a little more James Cook in this offense, both running the ball and a little more passing?
I think we're going to start to see more of it for sure. I think that the way that the Bills are talking about James Cook, Sean and Joe, more so Sean, it feels like he's passing some internal tests here over the last month. They had the first time where it was the fumble early in that game a couple weeks ago, and then, he was off the field for almost a quarter. And then the next week he had the drop pass, and everybody thought he was kind of taken out of the game. But Joe Brady said that it was just how the rotation went. There was nothing in his mind where he was keeping him out of the game. But, McDermott said he's liked how he's handled things and has mentioned specifically his practice habits. He said leading up to last week, he was as locked in practice as he's seen him since they drafted him. And it felt like that, didn't it, guys? Like early in the first quarter, I tweeted it, I think. This is what the vision felt like going back and listening to Brandon Beane when they drafted him. And it's never really quite met with those expectations, like what the reality has been with this over the last year and a half. But now you start looking at those stats and you look at a game like that where he leads the team in receiving yards. He goes over 100 in all-purpose yards. And I think it's like he had 4 games like that. And it's the first time since LaShawn McCoy, I guess. So he's been really good. I think they have to figure out a way with the lack of a consistent second option and at times a lack of a number one option. I mean, Stephon Diggs went 11 targets and came away with 4 catches. And L'Jarius Sneed is as good as it gets. I was talking to Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated last week before the game, and he was like, trust me, people don't understand how underrated Sneed is. He has not given up a 100-yard receiver all year. This is a bad matchup for Stephon Diggs. And I kind of scoffed at it because, you're used to seeing Stephon Diggs win against other elite corners. And, he didn't. He didn't enough. I mean, and there was a couple plays in that game where I thought he should have made, and not just the drops. The one that hit him in the chest. I thought you got to find a way to get your hands up there and make that catch. So with that all happening, and there's Dalton Kincaid's been kind of hit or miss. You're adding Knox back into the mix. Gabe Davis, we know what's going on there. James Cook, to me, is like the guy you want the ball in his hands, and you start to wonder if they're going to maybe uptick. There's going to be an uptick in his snap count percentage because I still think he's not on the field nearly enough, especially considering if you go look at Pro Football Focus, Latavius Murray is supposed to be on the field to help in pass protection. Like, that feels like his role. He was the worst graded pass blocker in that game on Sunday. So what's the point of that?
One thing that you see an increase in as well, talking about this Bills offense, and it's not a coincidence, Dawson Knox returns, and the Bills played out of 12 personnel, 31% of their offensive snaps in Kansas City, which was the 5th highest rate last week in the NFL. It was during Knox's time off between weeks 8 and 12 at 2.6%, the lowest rate in the league. It's clear, whether it's coming from Sean McDermott or Joe Brady or higher powers, they want to run that 12 personnel, don't they, Matt?
Yeah, and I think they want to find a way to unlock their passing game. Like you saw on the touchdown drive, the first one, they went 5 plays of their 6 before the Cook touchdown in 12. And I liked what they were doing in some of the personnel ideas that they had. They had Trent Sherfield on the field and Gabe Davis with 12 personnel. So you're thinking that as a defensive player, there's a really good chance they're going to run the ball here. And then they don't. Cook kind of shoots out on the wheel, and he's wide open. They don't pick him up. And there was a lot of pre-snap motion. To me, it's like it's not so much in like that they're using 12 and like that's a bad thing. It's like how creative are you going to be with 12 on the field? I thought it was a little bit heavy in terms of the personnel turnover from play to play. Like sometimes it feels like you're watching like a hockey team. Like I'm watching Mighty Ducks back in the day when Aberman was jumping over the boards like every other minute. Like it's a lot. Like they're, I think there's a part of it where, Joe Brady's got to find a happy medium with, okay, I do want to give a bunch of different looks and keep the defense off balance. And maybe that was a matchup specific thing because you're going up against Steve Spagnuolo and you want to throw as many looks as you can at him and not let him get comfortable with the personnel that you have on the field. But I feel like week to week, they need to settle into a little bit more like, I want to see a little bit more Kincaid even though he played more than Knox in that game.
Matt Perino, the Shout podcast, Syracuse Post Standard, our guest here in the sports bar. And Matt, like following games, you see Daquan Jones kind of hanging around when the team is at home and kind of being with the team on a day-to-day basis. Like, what's the story here? Could we actually get him back here by the end of the season?
I mean, I think there's a really good chance. I mean, Sean McDermott said yesterday that he feels like it's they're in between red and yellow right now. So they're getting ramped up, and you got 4 regular season games left. You probably open, no matter what, his practice window maybe as early as next week and let him get out on the practice field, even if it's in a limited capacity, and let him dial some things up. I really think this is a huge development. If this materializes for a potential playoff run, what it does more than anything, of course you want Daquan Jones in some capacity, but I think what's even more important is potentially lessening the amount you're using Jordan Phillips, because I think we could all be objective about this, and I think if Jordan Phillips was being honest, he'd even tell you the same thing. At that rate of play, he just has not been very effective. So I think Daquan Jones, getting him back, changes the complexion of that defensive line in so many ways. Even if he can't be playing at 60% of the snaps like he was before the injury, you get him at 35 and 40 and shrink that thing down a little bit for Phillips, and you're in probably a better spot.
Matt Perino joining us in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester. You know what? It was a tumultuous week last week for Sean McDermott, not just because of the Von Miller situation, of course, because of the Ty Dunn piece and everything that went with that, and the comments that were kind of unearthed in that piece. In that game against Kansas City, it did still feel at moments where the pressure was dialed up that these guys looked a little discombobulated. Can you talk a little bit about how the team ended the first half? And we kind of touched on how that last drive for the Bills went that led to the eventual game-winning field goal. But the idea that it just wasn't exactly as smooth sailing as you would like there with everything to play for down the stretch.
Yeah, and I think that's something that there might be some things they still got to work out. Like I think it's a huge jump and on-the-fly kind of deal with Joe Brady that there's going to be times when it's a little bit complicated. I would imagine that there's a bit of runway to the development of the relationship of Brady and McDermott in Game 2, and I wonder how much that was at play. And I think you take a moment like Kansas City, having 2 end-of-the-half situations that I think they'd both be honest and say they wish that it would have gone better, and build off that for the next time. What I'm taking away from this game and this week more than anything was it felt like Sean McDermott's defense in those big moments needed one of these series where they go out there and get a stop against a guy like Patrick Mahomes. It's like when that 3rd and 15 comes up at the end of that game, everybody in the stadium, Bills fan or Chiefs fan, everybody watching at home, everybody in the press box, are just preparing for who is going to catch the Patrick Mahomes pass that goes for a first down. We saw it early in the game. I think it was like 3rd and 18, and Travis Kelce goes for 23 on this just improbable pass that just floats over the defender and right into the bucket for Kelce. It's like he's a special player, and that's a special offense. And, knowing when Mac Jones does it to you at the end of the game and drives down the field and scores, you're just expecting it to happen. So to know the ghosts in that building and for Sean McDermott to dial up the aggressiveness on that last, and I know that they scored the touchdown there. You can't, discount that. That was a big play. But in the end, the only thing you're going to remember about that series was that on 3rd and 4th down, Sean McDermott's defense got stops and big players made big plays. Ed Oliver, Leonard Floyd, and even Von Miller, who honestly in the fourth quarter looked like the closest thing to the version of the player that he was a year ago. And listen, I was in the third quarter just bashing him and saying, like, dude, you got to get this guy off the field. He does not look like he's the same guy. And I don't know if he was saving it for the fourth quarter or if he just felt more comfortable as the game went along, because it was the first game he played without that brace. So I'm wondering if over time he planted off of that repaired knee enough times to where he started to settle in and feel comfortable. But he had real juice in the fourth quarter for the first time this season. This was the plan all along. Whether or not he should be out there, I mean, we could talk about that. That's a separate conversation. But for Sean McDermott in that week, with all that was going on and the way that he kind of bent over after the fourth down stop and the emotion and the the way everybody talked about him after the game. It's like it's a possible galvanizing instance in this season, and like maybe a plot point in this organization's run under Sean McDermott, that everything's in front of them. I said before last week's game, before the Chiefs game on the preview show, I was picking the Bills to win the AFC East. I'll bring up the clip. I'll send it to Gino. He'll play it next week.
I predicted it before week 1, Matt. I don't know what took you so long.
That a boy. But everybody was out on this team. Everybody was out on like Sean McDermott, and I understood a lot of it. I was critical of him as well. But I also look around this conference, and there is a lot of just what is going on with a lot of these teams, starting with the Miami Dolphins, who now it appears can't even beat the bad teams. It was just the good teams, and now they can't beat the bad teams. So they just got to take care of their own business. I think they win the AFC East.
Matt, yeah, it's funny to think, like, this time last week, we didn't know what was on the horizon, like these two off-the-field stories. Let's start with Von. You approached him. How did that go afterward, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, it's strange. He hasn't said a word. I've approached him in the locker room during the regular season or during the regular practice week. He just shook his head no. He shook his head no in the locker room after we waited for him as well, and then said, "I appreciate you guys," and then just walked past. So I would imagine he's being instructed not to talk. The Bills continue to keep their position as they don't have any information that's come about that's changed the course that they've decided to take here with allowing him to play until they have more understanding. My guess is they're leaning, as the NFL is, and the Bills are following the NFL's lead, the recanting story from the girlfriend that was reported by an outlet in Dallas shortly after Von Miller's arrest. But again, I mean, the details in that police report are just so jarring. And it's one side, but it was a police investigation. There was an arrest made. They haven't said enough to where I know enough to where I feel comfortable with Von's side of things. We haven't talked to Von. We haven't heard his side of things. And so it's definitely this kind of dark cloud, gray cloud over everything. And I guess this story could pivot at any time depending on the information that either comes out or the Bills get. And we'll see how they act on that if they get information that changes from what they've gotten already.
Matt, we started our conversation with a clip from Dan Orlovsky earlier today on One Bills Live talking about how to stop Dallas's offense. It's hard, man. I look at Dallas and I try to find things I don't like about that team, and I really struggle. Who do you think gets tasked with covering CeeDee Lamb, and what keys do you think the Bills need to focus on here in order to get the W on Sunday?
I think he'll probably see a lot of Rasul Douglas. But again, I don't think that they're going to mirror him. I think that you'll probably see Benford out there as well. This is actually probably in coverage, like one of Christian Benford's worst games of the season coming off the Chiefs game. He obviously made that big play to knock the ball out. But I think that at times he looked a little bit overmatched. So we'll see how he rebounds. But you know how the Bills play. They play a lot of zone coverage. They're going to try to get to the football. They played a couple weeks ago a Philadelphia Eagles offense that I thought for like half the game they played really well against it. Dak Prescott has been so outstanding this season. I mean, his MVP bid, it's really going to be hard to beat, I think, because if you look at his game, he has only 4 games this season where he's thrown an interception, and one of those games he threw 3 of his 6 on the year, and that was against San Francisco in the 42-10 loss. So that's what you have to do. You have to affect him, and they have a really good offensive line, so that's hard. But now all of a sudden you have Von Miller, who seems to be finding something. Greg Rousseau was the top-graded pass rusher for the Bills last week, so it looks like he's getting healthier, which is massive. Oliver's got to have a huge game. Leonard Floyd, the Epinesa injury is troubling. I mean, week to week, his status for this weekend is completely up in the air. I at this point, put it at not great odds that he's going to be able to play. So you look at some of these other guys, maybe that activates Kingsley Jonathan, and you want to see if he can maybe take advantage of an opportunity because Shaq Lawson hasn't been a pass rusher that I think he even was last season. He's getting older, and it's harder. But maybe they hope that Von Miller, this is his big coming out party, if you will, from a football perspective. We will see. But you got to turn the ball over somehow. And it showed in this game. If they don't get those turnovers when they did against a Chiefs team that was struggling on offense, maybe we're talking about a different result and a different conversation completely.
Well, they're not going to talk about the opponents ahead, but we can, Matt. You're playing Easton Stick. I don't know, it will be Bailey Zappi or whatever New England trots out. True or false, if the Buffalo Bills find a way to win this game, indeed, coming up week 18, that's going to be for the AFC East down in Miami.
Maybe, but it might already be over. I mean, guys, there's a real scenario that plays out here where the Dolphins don't win another game the rest of the season, regular season. I mean, they're playing the Jets this week, who are coming off of a galvanizing win of their own. I mean, the defense for Miami is banged up. I mean, they are Xavier Howard's all kind of banged up. They lost. Who did they lose last week on their defensive line? Oh, no, Jalen Phillips is out for the season. He was a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, they're banged up, and Tyreek Hill's day-to-day. They lost their center.
Yep.
Like, the Jets probably going to win this game. I'd probably pick them to win this game. With the way that Tua's kind of looked a little bit shaky, still turning the ball over quite a bit. And then you have Dallas, Baltimore, and Buffalo. Like, isn't that a scenario where you could talk yourself into them losing all those games? So, yeah, I definitely think the division's going to probably be on the line in that last week. If it's not already over. Now, it wouldn't already be over, actually, the more I'm thinking about it, because I think the Bills would lose the tiebreaker if they lose to the Dolphins. So they'd have to obviously win that game. But, yeah, the circumstances around that game, man, how much has that changed in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday, and I echoed what you said about the Jets, Matt. I thought that I assumed a win over Tennessee last night for Miami, wrongfully assumed, by the way, and that the Jets would give the Dolphins fits, meaning that they would lose two of their final three. They would lose to Baltimore. They would lose to Dallas. And that would set up a Week 18 matchup against the Bills in Miami for the AFC East. And I'm trying to think if there's a scenario where the Bills could actually wrap up the division if Miami were to lose against the Jets, Cowboys, and Ravens, and the Bills won those three games. They would still be. Would they be one game up? They would be one game up on the Dolphins, right?
Yeah, but Matt just explained
with the tiebreaker.
Yeah, it was like Miami still would be in a position to
play for the division.
Yeah,
gotcha.
So yeah, I mean it's going to be fun, and it's going to change the dynamic of everything already. And oh, by the way, not just Miami with this tough end of the season schedule. Baltimore has a really tough end of the season schedule, and I don't know what we're going to be sitting here looking at. If the Bills end up winning the division, of course they get to host a home game. But if they don't, and then they have to go on the road in the first game, I mean, roll the dice with those top four. I mean, Baltimore, Miami, Kansas City, and Jacksonville. You could be going anywhere. You could maybe be playing in Florida 3 straight weeks. In Miami, in Jacksonville, and maybe Miami again. It's going to be a party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Matt, bring the conversation full circle. I see you in Kansas City again at some point, buddy.
Yeah, I'm not too mad about it. Like Joe's Barbecue, I got my order down pat now, and it was so killer the other day that I was talking to it about it with a few friends on the beat, and I said, if we got to come back here, listen, I'm just gonna get to Joe's. I stood outside in the line, guys, for 80 minutes, and I wasn't even mad about it. It was that good. So that's the one benefit. I saw Kansas down there, the number 2 team in the nation. At Allen, the field house there, it was unreal. I'd never seen a big-time Division I, like a blue blood school, like Midwest, powerhouse, at home, the stadium or the arena rocking. It was a really cool experience. If you can get to one of those kind of games, highly recommend it.
Matt, what's on tap this week for the Shout podcast? What are you working on that we can check out?
Ton. So I'm putting together something. It'll be out maybe later tonight or early tomorrow. Basically, I'm going to weave a story through all the different possibilities and who you should be rooting for and what it all looks like. I'm going to take a look at all the remaining schedules for the 7 and 6 teams. It should be a good piece for people that are just trying to get a baseline level of understanding of what to look for the next month. And then Shout, we got an interview with Ross Tucker that just went live before I came on here. That's up on all the channels. Ryan and I will be up with the Staples Show and then we'll have 2 Cowboys preview shows. Ryan and I will do one, and then I'll have one with a Dallas beat reporter later this week.
Yeah, and then after the game, 2, right? Matt, have you made any decisions on after the game?
So I would like an on-field correspondent, but only if it's like raining and like under 30 degrees. And I'm going to go out to you, and we're going to, all right, now out to Gene. And I want you to give a really heartfelt, passionate post-game report. Can you do that for us?
I don't think you have the technical capabilities to do that, man. I think you'd just be messing with me.
He'll work it out. I think he'll work it out. He'll work it out.
I'll figure it out, Gino, because I think that the people need it.
Thanks,
You're
Matt.
the absolute best, Matt. Enjoy the rest of your week, buddy.
Take care, guys.
And Matt Perino, the Syracuse Post-Standard, joining us here in the Sports Bar to talk all things Bills as the team gets ready for Dallas. Coming in, the Cowboys, late afternoon, Sunday in Orchard Park.
There's no way Week 18 is going to mean 0 for the Buffalo Bills, unless the Bills kind of lose out and then are eliminated. But that's going to mean something in terms of the division if Miami does not keep pace. If Miami wins, if they win all their games, okay, then that would be the only one where Buffalo would need to win Week 18
This
for a
is
wild card.
so Miami. It's playing out in such a Miami way.
This is old-time Miami.
This is how it always happens with the Dolphins. If you're a Dolphin fan, how do you live like this? This was last year's team. This was remember the year that the Dolphins went in the last week of the season to Buffalo with everything to play for, a playoff spot. The Bills are playing their scrubs, and they still got waxed.
It's like that old, joke that you shouldn't tell. Like, honestly, the Miami Dolphins collapse is like Hanukkah. I know they're in December. I just can't tell you when.
Great stuff from Perino, as always. And we'll make sure that you have that available on demand wherever you get your podcasts. You can search out the Sports Bar. You can find us on YouTube and on Twitch. I got to give props to somebody in the Twitch stream, Gort, the Ancient, who just sent us this message. The only downside to watching the Sports Bar on Twitch is you don't get to enjoy the amazing ads with the amazing sound effects.
What is the top ad on our station right now?
Oh, everybody knows the answer to that.
Well, no, I think we have a contender this year because Santa coming home after kind of having a good night with the elves.
Oh, yeah.
That's some quality, right?
Santa with the munchies isn't bad. Santa with the munchies isn't bad, but it'll never. There's only one, and everybody knows what we're talking about.
What time is it coming up, Mike Danger? Can you look in the log?
I can.
All right, so we're going to give everybody a chance to listen again.
Except for the people that are watching on YouTube and Twitch.
No, and the Odyssey app, too. You're going to get served something different that time. So this would only be on 95.7 or AM 950.
Well, we'll have, but I tell you what, before we take a break, right around, ironically enough, 4:20, we will have that magnificent bit of holiday creative for you from our friends at in the chat room. He called it the TH ads with the amazing sound effects. Boing. But watch on the stream anyways at the Fan Rochester on YouTube and on Twitch. All right, we've got some takes on tap next in the Sports Bar. Stand by for I'll Drink to That.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. 9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Bills are favored over a 10-win Dallas team that's coming up Sunday, 4:25. Players off today. Sean McDermott to address reporters tomorrow. Sabres getting the win over Arizona on Monday. They're in Colorado on Wednesday. Head coach Don Granato on the changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally different. Those three games last night included are a stark contrast to how we played, just even in starting with mindset, playing with urgency.
Meanwhile, the Rochester Americans play the first of 3 straight road games coming up tomorrow night. They're in Springfield. Team just stepping off the practice ice just now, so we'll push Seth Appert's weekly appearance back to the 5 o'clock hour. Kansas City Royals signing former Mets and Padres reliever Seth Lugo. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
So to sum it all up, guys, Kadarius Toney was offside. Von Miller was offside. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are better now.
Patrick Mahomes acting like that. Spoiled brat. Didn't get his way for once.
I probably regret acting like that. But more than anything, I regretted the way I acted towards Josh after the game because he had nothing to do with it.
The Bills seem to be finding their groove at the right time.
Cowboys coming to town this week.
Mike Danger.
Dallas looks good. There's not a lot to hate about Dallas as they come into Buffalo this weekend.
Gene Battaglia.
Name a hotter team right now than the Dallas Cowboys. This is quite the matchup, but you got to get past Dallas here. How did the Bills do this?
Dallas has not played well on the road. Buffalo's played fairly well at home this year.
The utterly shocking and extremely alarming choke job that the Dolphins pulled off last night.
Touchdown Titans!
It could come down to Week 18. That could be for the division.
What a throw by DeVito!
Tommy Cutlets.
He's Italian, Gino.
Go Sabres.
Let's go Amherst.
Safe is down. Thank you for listening to the show.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, Romy mentioned it there, and thanks to the Dandalorian for another fine production. The bounty hunter, the finest audio in the galaxy. What an epic choke job by the Dolphins last night, Gino. And I have to imagine that the Miami Dolphins might find themselves in some hot water. I don't know who else you might have in hot water.
Listen, if I'm at the Kansas City front office right now, you're expecting the package for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. You cannot call the officials embarrassing and act like that. So I would expect a fine coming up. Maybe it's nothing more than a little hand slap, but that's certainly not what you would expect out of that model franchise. They're in hot water, but you can see how good hot water can be. Ace Swim and Leisure. They've been serving Rochester area families since 1962. It isn't very often something comes along as cool and different as the all-new jacuzzi swim spa. It's the right size. It's the right price. It's the pool spa combo that gives you the pro-grade water workout and therapeutic water massage. See for yourself at Ace Swim and Leisure's Chilai Avenue store today or aceswim.com.
Fantastic result for the Buffalo Bills last night on Monday Night Football. You had a doubleheader. I mean, look, it's a fantastic result if you're a Brian Daboll fan. If you're somebody that misses Brian Daboll, that wishes that Brian Daboll never left her, you just like him because he has Rochester roots. All acceptable. But really the story is Tommy freaking DeVito.
This is great. This is the best thing in New York sports since Linsanity. And for anybody that's a New York sports fan, like, what are you rallying around? Like, the Yankees aren't playing to their level. The Mets are a mess. Sure, the Knicks, but they're not really going to go anywhere. And the New York football teams suck. But this gives you a little bit of hope and some fun. And when the hometown guy does well, who can't get behind this? The agent dressing up. Like, this is cosplay last night. Like, they're going to the convention, right, with a bunch of other college kids.
I love it. I think it's so much fun. So much so that I've instructed host of the Italian Carousel, Joe Capagreco, to get on the blower with Tommy DeVito's agent. And let's get Tommy DeVito to guest host on the Italian Carousel.
Now you're going too far. You really think Joe Capagreco will allow somebody else other than himself? I die in this chair.
You know why? Because he's Italian! That's why he would do it. Because he's Italian.
The gabagool.
Yes, he lives in his mom's basement. He gets the cutlets. He likes a little prosciutto. He likes a little gabagool. You gotta put some mozzarella on top of it. He's Italian.
Molto bene.
That wasn't the outcome that actually benefited the Bills, though. The one that benefited the Bills more than anything was Miami's epic choke job. 14 points down the stretch given up by Miami's defense to Will Levis. Who, by the way, I like Will Levis. I think they got something with Will Levis.
Yes, I guess from the toughness standpoint, yes, from the gunslinger mentality, he got a long way to go.
Dude is a freak.
He's a freak.
He's a freak.
He's going to get himself hurt is what he's going to do. Also, I'm a snob, like Chris Fowler, and there is the pass. It's a touchdown. It was intercepted. Like last night. Oh, and the field goal is blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was... That being said, a lot of people not liking it. I kind of dug the two games at once last night.
Yeah, I was switching back and forth between the two of them. And I also like how one ended and you could go watch the conclusion, and the conclusion of the second was exciting. Now, you're not going to get that every time you have simultaneous games, but Monday night had a little bit of a Sunday afternoon feel. That late window, that late window where you've got a lot of action with games ending and new games starting. It felt a little bit like that.
Yeah, the best hour of the week, I call it. That Sunday from 3:30 to about 4:45. That window is just fantastic. It never fails to deliver. And yeah, they were calling this one. Sal Capaccio had the guy who does the schedule way back when said this was an experiment this week, just to put two games at once. How would this go over? So with the same start time, why won't they want to do this every week? If somebody's willing to pay you extra money to move it to this window, why not do it?
I think teams just get so caught up in their routine and their schedule. And every time you move the game a date, it screws up everything. You move it to Thursday, forget it. It's terrible. You can't do that. Nobody wants to play on Thursday.
It's a football thing. Every other sport plays on other different days of the week.
Yeah, because they're just regimented and their routine, and you can't knock them out of their groove. If they get into a routine, pushing a game a day or pushing it up a couple of days, it screws everything up. It just gets them out of their rhythm.
Before we get to, I'll drink to that, because you were talking about how the Cowboys, do they have a flaws or anything you don't like? Here's one thing that we really haven't talked about. The hot kicker talk with this guy, Brandon Aubrey, 30 of 30. And here's a fun fact. He played for Toronto FC2 against the Rochester Rhinos.
Come on.
Can you imagine? That was 2017.
Wow.
2017, if you're not familiar with the story, then he goes over to the USFL. Just really, why don't I take a shot at this? And since we say we watch, we really don't. But he could have signed with anybody.
That's hot. And if we're going to dive into hot kicker talk, one of our regulars, Chris in South Central Kentucky, is sharing an article with us. It just went down here in the last hour. The civil suit against the punt god has been dropped.
Well, both sides, we should point out. So he was countersuing. So it was the lawyer saying, all right, you drop yours, we'll drop ours. Boom. Because he had a case, I'm for sure, for defamation. If you're wondering, is some team now going to bring in Matt Araiza? Not right now. We're like, for what? Like, if you're in it, you would have a punter right now. You don't need any distractions right now. I hope the kid gets another shot.
I think he will get another shot. Selfishly, I hope that I know it'll never happen, but man, the Bills could use Matt Araiza. I mean, what would this special teams unit look like if you had truly, I believe, a star punter? Sam Martin's not great.
No, Sam Martin's a guy.
He's a guy.
He's a guy.
But if you had punt god, now you've got an advantage in your special teams unit.
All right, so where I say, hey, don't do this now, should Brandon Beane pick up the phone call and look?
Well, the reason why I think it'll never happen is because Matt Araiza probably has a pretty sour taste in his mouth.
Correct. But should you offer, if you're Brandon Beane, have a spot on the practice squad right now, and then you'll have a chance to compete for a job next year?
Yeah, I mean, you could absolutely offer that, but I think Araiza would probably get, hey, what are those?
Because he's
I don't know. Is he Italian, Ariza?
If I was Matt Ariza's agent, I would say whoever picks up the phone and offers you an opportunity, you take it. I don't know if there's going to be everybody knocking down the door, Danger.
Well, we'll see. But and also what we don't know is like how much. We assume he's been keeping up with it. We assume that he still has
that's true.
this ability, this skill. I mean, he hasn't played meaningful football. Well, he did play a little bit in the spring league, didn't he? No USFL, no XFL,
nope.
nothing.
There was a unfounded report that he was going to go play in Mexico. You remember that?
Oh, right.
That kind of fell through.
Right. Ugh. Yeah, I hope he gets another chance. I'll drink to that. This is our little take space. And you're always welcome to join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
I like money. You like money. We're not financial experts on this show, but we try, right?
I do like money.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Okay. And then I'm just pointing this out to anybody that wants to contribute that's in, because it's funny, when we talk legal matters, we have lawyers that listen. When we talk about health issues, we have PTs that will chime in. I need an accountant. I need somebody that's an agent. I need somebody that's smart to explain to me why deferring out of the $700 million, if you haven't heard this, 680 of the 700 million is being deferred for Shohei Ohtani. And I'm trying to figure out, why is that a good thing for Ohtani? And people are saying, well, taxes. Okay, I'm going to assume that the Dodgers still be based in Los Angeles in the years 2034 to 2043, which means I would think the state of California still gets their chunk on the deferred payment. The Dodgers are also putting the money in the escrow, too. The thing I can't wrap my mind around, Danger, is this. It's inflation. Okay? Like $700 million is a lot of money right now. But is it going to be as much money in the year 2043? Probably not. So why? I want my money now. Always now. And it might just be as simple as this. So Ohtani, I know, sarcasm, I can hear it when I say this. He's actually putting winning above everything else. Let's go all out while I'm here, as long as you get other people to surround me in the lineup and we fortify our bullpen, whatever it is. Another question I have in this: how does Major League Baseball allow this? How do they allow this? This is like the biggest loophole of all time. Hey, Steve Cohen, are you paying attention? Defer everything.
The Mets know about this, but see also Bobby Bonilla.
Bobby Bonilla is a joke. It's $1 million. We're talking about $8 million in the year 2043.
Yeah.
You don't think Jerry Jones, by the way, would love for some system like this in the NFL?
Right.
It's the ultimate circumvent of the cap, Danger.
Yeah, but it'll never happen in the NFL, right?
No.
You would completely throw the competitive balance out of whack.
No, this is the soft cap.
Yeah.
So what is there going to be any pushback from this? Is the state of California going to say, what are we doing here?
Do we know did Ohtani come out? Has he spoken out since signing the deal? Do we know anything? Because that is interesting. The idea that you're deferring everything so that you have the ability to win now, that you can get a roster, that my salary isn't going to be the thing that eats up this roster and prevents us from being a winner, would be pretty noble. And, you said it, I want my money right now. I also want my money right now, but I also know that from years and years of dumping money into a 401k or whatever you're doing, that money that you're going to get down the road does afford you a different mindset later in life.
Well,
if you're Shohei Ohtani.
That's true, but they had a financial expert on with Maggie and Perloff today. It's not like this move doesn't come with some risk. Now, it's not like Major League Baseball is going to go bankrupt. However, can anybody predict how this ownership group will look 10, 15 years from now? What if they sell to somebody else that goes bankrupt? That's why. Get your money up front. This is real. When we say unprecedented, sometimes it's like, no, that's not true. There's other things you can point to. This is truly unprecedented.
He'll get his money, even if it's new owners. Even if he was a member of the San Diego Padres, he'd get his money. Could you imagine a scenario? I know the Padres almost didn't make payroll that one time, but can you imagine a scenario where the Dodgers can't pay their players?
No, like that legitimately. But I'm curious, the Players Association, are they fine with this. Remember, like long ago, the Players Association vetoed an Alex Rodriguez trade to Boston. Why? Because A-Rod, to get out of his deal in Texas, said he'd take less money. No. We don't do that here. Right. Yep. Nope. You are collecting your deal, which, look, that's just good business here. Yeah, I cannot wait to hear Ohtani. Well, what's he going to say? He's not going to say anything, but what a deal here. What a week this was for baseball.
Can we stay in L.A. because we got so hung up in the throes of a Victory Monday yesterday. Gino, we did not give proper time to really, truly appreciate and congratulate the L.A. LeBrons on their in-season tournament final victory over the Pacers, where it was actually Anthony Davis, who was a beast on Saturday night. I can't imagine what it must feel like for Davis to constantly play in the shadow of somebody that we need to appreciate as much as possible.
Well, we don't appreciate LeBron enough.
I'm talking about LeBron, yes. The funniest part of this win now is the news that came out here in the last 24 hours. They're going to hang a banner for it. They're going to hang a banner for their in-season tournament championship. Crypto Arena will sport a Lakers banner, 2023 in-season tournament champions, for all of us to appreciate. Congrats to the Lakers. Way to go, LeBron. Now you've won 2 titles in L.A. that are not real.
Wow, the bubble one is real.
Not real.
It's a real one. They beat Miami.
Real.
This isn't. No.
The only way he can win a title is if you manufacture one for him.
I like how the Lakers are saying, well, this banner, we're leaving space on this. When we win the in-season tournament in the future, we're going to have to put the other years on it. You know, every other team, there are other teams in this league like, you're doing what? What, we're going to have to raise one of these too? It's a cute little thing. Like, what's next? You were finished with the best preseason record?
When you look up to the rafters at Crypto Arena and you see that banner, it'll just make you appreciate LeBron that much more. I mean, you look up and see the greats. You see Magic, you see Kareem, you see Shaq, you see Kobe, and now you'll see the bubble championship banner, and you'll see the in-season tournament champion. You have to appreciate everything that LeBron has had handed to him since coming to the Lakers.
Which is worse, the LeBron and Lakers in-season championship banner, or the one the Colts put up, AFC finalist? Like, what does that even mean? You won a couple playoff games?
AFC finalist. Congratulations on being in the AFC. Do we have a relegation system that we're not aware of?
One of the years they lost to the Patriots, the Flake game might have been like they raised the banner, AFC finalist. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah. This from sports broadcasting, even though Al Michaels is on Amazon now. I mean, and remember, NBC did bring him back for the one playoff game.
Yeah, you were being a snob about that game too. That was an exciting comeback where the Chargers chargered, and Al just wasn't into it.
I was not being a snob. Many people were. Al was just like any place but here. Was just bored by these two teams. It was almost like he got the lemon. Like, I got to go to Jacksonville.
But it feels like there's a lot of people that are surprised that he's not going to call games in the postseason for NBC this year.
He doesn't work for them anymore. Like, NBC's grooming the next guy.
And even then, why would you be surprised based on his performance last year? I mean, if everybody's criticism was accurate, then you wouldn't want him ever calling a postseason game because he just didn't have it anymore.
Yeah, look. Noah Eagle, what's he, 24?
He's great.
He's
a star.
Jealous.
He's great.
Yeah, he's really, this kid's going to be like the next one. He's going to be on the call for whatever that second NBC playoff game is. And look, I don't want to badmouth Al Michaels. He's one of the greats of all time.
Of course.
He called the Miracle on Ice. He's called World Series, Super Bowls, NBA Finals. He was on Monday Night Football, not at its peak, but pretty close. I'm not one to tell someone, Danger, you know this, hey, stop working. No, if someone wants to pay you and you want to keep working, go for it. Keep paying him. But to draw the analogy here to Rochester, Al Michaels is like the former big-name morning show host who now does 2 hours, maybe 1.5 from his condo in Florida. Maybe we can replace Kirk Herbstreit with Al's wife. That would make the analogy complete.
Oh boy, that's just an unnecessary shot. You had to make that connection, and it's
true.
It's not necessary though,
but it's true.
The guy you just said though, if you have somebody that's willing to pay you and you can still do it, then still do it. Keep going.
I'm not one to say, hey, don't do the show from the condo.
When
you're like 20 years from now, like they just like
20. 5, dude. 5. I have goals. 5.
Dude, the girls are not going to be out of the house at 5.
Don't care. They'll be old enough. 5. What is it? The year of our Lord 2023. My kid graduates. What year does she graduate? 27? She's a freshman. Is that 27? I want to say it's 27.
Okay, we'll roll with that.
We'll roll with 27. I'm telling you, before 2030, your boy's doing these shows in the wintertime from Florida.
And I'm telling you that I will be doing high school lacrosse on varsity media in the year 2040. Saying, I can't believe they're using noise.
We're being awful presumptuous. That's assuming they allow us to continue to do this nonsense on a daily basis. That's the first assumption. Like, we have to assume that they're going to be like, okay, fine, we'll keep you guys around. I suppose you're harmless. You're not doing, you're. I guess you're a value. We'll hold on to you for, that's assuming we don't get canceled. That's assuming that they don't find somebody to replace us, like Zach Gelb or somebody like that.
I like how you always bring up the cancel thing. It's always like you're fearful. Like
Oh, dude, I know that you and I, based on the conversations we have off the air, you or I are one misstep away from, hey, you want fries with that?
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen tomorrow. We have no idea. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen when we go to break right now and we play a fantastic ad from a local advertiser to get you in the holiday spirit.
We appreciate all of our local advertisers.
That's right.
And if you want to advertise with us, we love having you on board.
Talk to Gene Battaglia. That's Battaglia. Look him up.
But in this instance, the ad in question, that's Mr. Butanko's client.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Where he enjoys his weekly visit.
I think he does. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back with more. We got some news and notes from around the NFL
coming up.
It is. That's why I brought it up.
Okay.
I want to follow through on my teases. We got happy hour coming up here in about a half an hour, and also before we close up shop at 6, we'll talk to Amerks head coach Seth Apper from the road. The team in Springfield practicing now, and as they get off the ice, the practice sheet, we'll talk to Seth Appert and get a little preview of tomorrow night's action there as the Amerks are on the road. More next on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7. Sports Update.
Buffalo Bills players off today. Practice resuming tomorrow, getting ready for Dallas. The Bills a 2.5-point favorite for the Sunday 4:25 kickoff. Head coach Sean McDermott on this next opponent.
We move ahead to this week now. That's where our focus has to be. We've got to move ahead and got a very good opponent coming in here. And we've got to obviously put our time in. It's going to be a big challenge for us. But at home, it's been a few weeks since we've been home, and we're looking forward to being in front of our crowd again here.
Meanwhile, the Buffalo Sabres get a win over Arizona. 3-game road trip beginning tomorrow night in Colorado. 3-game road trip for the Rochester Americans beginning tomorrow night in Springfield, Mass. Team getting off the practice ice just about now. We push back Seth Appert's weekly appearance back to 5:40 today. Kansas City Royals signing former Mets and Padres reliever Seth Lugo. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Our guys have been working really hard, and I know we haven't gotten all the results that we wanted to this point, but there's been lessons in every one of those games, right? And now we're getting into the part of the season where we use those lessons. We're using those and the resiliency that's built in our football team to move us forward.
It's almost like he's saying, yeah, we lost those games to make us better. We broke things on purpose so that we could look good when we need to look good. That's Sean McDermott, Buffalo Bills head coach. More on the Bills and the Cowboys here throughout the afternoon. And welcome back into the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Appreciate you listening locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The stream is up at The Fan Rochester. You can watch on YouTube. You can also check us out on Twitch at The Fan Rochester and on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. Gino, today was a bittersweet day for me as commissioner of one of the fantasy football leagues that I'm in. I made my first payment to one of the league managers, regular season points champion, regular season points leader. The season is winding down. The fantasy football season is winding down. Playoffs for a lot of people begin this upcoming weekend. I know you're still alive in the unsanctioned.
I realized something last night watching this. I enjoy fantasy football way better when I'm actually not watching the game and I'm invested in. So last night I needed a few points from Saquon Barkley, and I give him the ball in the first quarter. I'm like, oh boy, and I'm getting agitated. I'm like, okay, I need to stop watching. And then out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, oh, that's him going in for the touchdown. Like I realize my behavior.
You don't
sometimes.
like to sweat. Nobody does.
Nobody does.
Nobody likes to sweat. You would have had to sweat if Barkley laid an egg last night.
Yes.
But Barkley
came
through.
Thanks to.
And an early win, now you can actually enjoy the game. You're not sweating anymore because, he took care of it. Or that's the best. That's my favorite play is when you make a wager or you play a guy and it's like, they scored. If you're a CeeDee Lamb owner, you had to love CeeDee Lamb getting that touchdown early in the game on Sunday night. Can't beat it. All right. If you pick CeeDee Lamb anytime touchdown, boom, there it is. Early on, you don't have to sweat. You've won. Move on. It's the best. It's the best feeling in the world. Bringing up fantasy football because it's time for Who's Hot and Who's Cold in fantasy football, brought to you by our friends at AirQuip Heating and Air Conditioning.
All right, so I'm going to give you some point totals, and you tell me the team. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
In the last 3 games, this team has scored 7, followed by 6, followed by 10 points. Who am I talking about? Again, 3 weeks ago, 7 points, 6 points, 10 points. They've lost 4 of 5. I'm talking about the LA Chargers. And they just lost their quarterback today. Justin Herbert is out for the year. Not that they were good with him anyways. Things falling apart. So right now, who's cold? That entire team is cold. And I don't know if it gets any better by the time Buffalo comes in there. Can you imagine if the Bills went all the way out there and lost? I can't. All right, I think the Chargers...
You can't lose to Easton Stick. Although we said that about Mac Jones, we said that about Zach Wilson. We kind of know how that goes, but yes.
Yeah, right, at this point of the season. So right now, who's cold in fantasy football? Yes, you still have Austin Eckler. Yes, you still have Keenan Allen. I hope you have better options for that. Who's hot in fantasy football? I am going to tell you... Brought this up earlier. Your total yards from scrimmage. It's Christian McCaffrey. My mind, Christian McCaffrey should be the MVP. He won't. It's going to be Dak Prescott because it always goes to a quarterback, and Dak Prescott is finally having the season that many thought he could live up to. Funny if the Bills can kind of change that narrative maybe a little bit.
I was just going to say, what if Dak lays an egg in Buffalo? What if Dak has multiple interceptions against the Bills defense on Sunday? Are you still thinking that Dak is the MVP, or does the conversation shift back to Brock Purdy, or is it just going to be week by week? We just judge based on the performance of that team in any given week. We have no reason right now to say that the Niners look cooked, or no reason to say that the Cowboys look cooked. But if the Bills can do that, then maybe you have a conversation where it's, all right, maybe Brock Purdy deserves this a little bit more than Dak.
Particularly, like this game is on, it's the national spotlight game, or they call it America's Game of the Week. So the point being, who is, going back to McCaffrey, number 1 in scrimmage yards. Number 2 in scrimmage yards. What about Travis Etienne? And then only 9 yards behind Travis Etienne.
How many yards?
9.
9 times.
James Cook amongst running backs is 3rd in scrimmage yards? You're kidding. This is you could fool all your friends with this if you're a Bills fan. He ranks that high? Use him more. He is a running back 1 in fantasy football.
Yeah.
He is hot right now.
You know who I feel bad for? Well, I don't really feel bad for you because you had the opportunity to draft him early in the first round back in August, but the Justin Jefferson owner has to be just frustrated as all hell. You had him on IR. You missed a good chunk of the season with him. And then he leaves the game early with his chest issue, and now he's day-to-day, and who knows what you're going to get from him at the time when you need him the most, if you even survived that IR stint. Justin Jefferson is somebody who we're going to have to kind of shelve until next draft season in fantasy football.
Yeah. So that is something that's concerning. Got a little breaking news here, and this might be a story to monitor here.
Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
I thought from the whole Tua Tagovailoa mess last year, and to kind of review, he gets hit by Matt Milano and is stammering off the field, but somehow he's back in the second half. It was a back injury. Okay, and then the next week his hands learned about fencing, and then he has a 3rd concussion. Okay, well, the NFL takes concussions very seriously. Do they? This is according to Ian Rappaport, and this is going to be a story, I think. The NFL and NFLPA are jointly reviewing the situation surrounding Steelers star TJ Watt and how he entered the NFL's concussion protocol. Watt reported symptoms Friday morning and now is in the protocol. This is standard for any time that a player goes into protocol. Okay, so not as bad there because, remember, the Steelers played on Thursday night, but it's a team that certainly the Steelers, the Bills are chasing. The Steelers are going to fall out of this.
I think a couple of things. One, I think the NFL does take concussions very seriously. I think teams do not.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. I think the NFL wants you to believe that they take this very seriously, but on game day, in the heat of a battle, when you're playing and everything is on the line, they will not take concussions as seriously as the NFL wants them to.
So here's my question. Why isn't the story TJ Watt is in the protocol? Why is it phrased the NFL and NFLPA are jointly reviewing the situation surrounding TJ Watt? Is this because of whatever happened Thursday night?
Well, maybe the NFL said, hey, we have reason to believe that he should be in protocol, and the NFLPA pushed back, and now you have to jointly look at the situation because you want to make sure that the player is safe. You want to protect the player from the player, and you also want to dig in a little bit to see if everything was done in that moment. I mean, imagine telling TJ Watt in the heat of a game, in prime time, hey, champ, give me your helmet. You're not going back out there. Why? Because he got dinged? Because he's concussed? You don't think he wants to play through a concussion? You don't think any of those guys want to play through a concussion?
That's why you need every team needs a big Dom on the sideline. Like they have in Philadelphia.
Because he's Italian.
Big Dom is going to take away your helmet, and
right.
You're going to go sit over there, and you're going to go check out in the tent.
Hey, who's hot and who's cold in fantasy football is brought to you by AirQuip Heating and Air Conditioning. It's fun and challenging to know when to start a player that's heating up or bench one who's cooling off. It's not fun to be too hot or too cold in your home or business. Make the best lineup call you can and call AirQuip today. We mentioned Easton Stick Thursday night, getting his first NFL start as Justin Herbert of the Chargers will have his season-ending surgery on his broken finger. He'll end this season with the same passer rating he had last season, 93.2.
Huh.
And for as much as the Chargers have kind of stunk this year, I still believe in Justin Herbert. I still think Justin Herbert, with the right coach in that situation, that team could be dangerous.
Is that a good job or a bad job?
I think it's a terrible job. It's deceptive.
It's you're going over the things you would like, right? If Buffalo ever came up, it's a great job because you have Josh Allen, you have ownership that's willing to give you the resources. And by the way, that's a bad example because Sean McDermott's not going anywhere. But in LA, like, we can assume this coach is getting fired. I would think there's a lot of coaches that would think, oh, I can go in there and I can do something with this, and then Kellen Moore will get bounced.
Or do they look at Kellen Moore and say, hey, Kellen Moore, you should be that? Like, I don't know what if you want an indictment on Kellen Moore, look at what has become of Dak Prescott with 1 year of Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, and look, you won that game over New England 6-0. That set football back how far?
Yeah.
That is just absolutely gross.
Yeah. There was another note that I thought was interesting from today. I don't know if you saw this, Gino. Because we've brought up his name a handful of times through the season. Certainly in the preseason, his name came up. We've been keeping tabs on him back since training camp. And that's quarterback Malik Cunningham, who today was plucked from the Patriots practice squad. Did you see this?
Yeah, and there's the connection there is, of course, Lamar Jackson went to Louisville. Cunningham went to Louisville. So maybe this is Lamar Jackson saying, hey, come on. But I always wonder, Danger, like, this is a lost season in New England. Why didn't Belichick give Cunningham a start or two? Like, what did you have to lose? Why did you think Mac Jones deserved another chance? What did you think Bailey Zappi was going to do for your team?
Yeah, it's a hard thing not knowing the personality of the player or knowing how much of a grasp he has on that offense. He did make an appearance earlier this year, but it wasn't anything lengthy. And now the Ravens get a chance to see what Cunningham is, at least on their practice squad. They have some depth at quarterback there in Baltimore, but you did mention the connection there between Jackson and Cunningham. They were teammates in 2017. Jackson was in his final year. Cunningham was a redshirt. So a little bit of a connection there. And to answer your question about the Patriots, you know how earlier we were talking about a lack of trust, Sean McDermott, a lack of trust with young players. Put that on steroids when you're talking about Bill Belichick, right? There's no way he's going to hand the keys to the car over to a rookie who's unproven, who might not know everything that you need to do to win football games in this league, or for the New England Patriots. You have nothing to lose. You're right. You have nothing to lose, but don't tell Bill Belichick that. You have everything to lose. He's not going to do that.
Yeah, good point. Well, it's all signs point to Bailey Zappi there on New Year's Eve in Buffalo. There is one Bills kind of storyline we're kind of monitoring, and I think you're going to hear more and more about this. Talking about this defense, of course, lots of injuries. And Tre'Davious White, we didn't like to see that, but I think they've been okay thanks to the Rasul Douglas trade and certainly Christian Benford stepping up, although Benford was against the Chiefs. The Matt Milano injury is going to be number one in my book. That you can't replace him, you can't do anything. But number two in my list of Bills injuries this year, Daquan Jones. He got hurt in that Jacksonville game. Up till that point, I thought he was playing at a Pro Bowl level, doing so much for everybody else around him. It's a pec injury, very painful, very gruesome. And he might actually return here, Danger. Sean McDermott saying that right now it's going from red to yellow as far as his rehab that's going, which leads me to think maybe next week they open up the window, because if you can get a healthy, motivated Daquan Jones, and also, there at the home games, I see him in the tunnel. Yeah. He's still hanging around this team. He's going to all the meetings. He's in the locker room after the games. He's somebody that is really invested. I think that would be a big boost.
We talked to him at training camp, and he's a real interesting cat, and you know that this has to be killing him, that he wants to be out there a part of what is about to come and what is happening with this team through the course of this season, the ups, the downs, and everything. But now with things kind of moving in the right direction, or you feel like they might be trending in the right direction for this team, how much does Daquan Jones miss being on the field? I guarantee you it's killing him.
Well, and how last year ended, too, because he got hurt right at the end. He wanted to dress. They didn't let him for that Cincinnati game, and Joe Mixon goes over 100 yards. Now, I don't know. Nobody would ever know if that was the difference, but you can only imagine Daquan Jones thinking that whole offseason, and then you're motivated. Plus, we like a guy from upstate New York. We count him, right? Binghamton, close enough?
Yeah, we'll claim a guy from Binghamton as our own.
Well, the connection here, like if you're really into our show, you know the pizza dude, right? Our engineer.
Yeah.
Pizza dude played football down in the southern tier, and like he would go head-to-head with Daquan Jones, and Pizza dude says he held his own. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
show me the video.
Yeah, sure.
Show me the video.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
Hey, look, Pizza dude's a big guy. He's a big guy. He probably could hold his own.
He played at Fisher.
He probably could hold his own. How did he hold up against Daquan Jones? Yeah, that's one I'd want to see. Let's roll the tape on that one. Let's see what that looks like. We talked about it earlier. It looks like Al Michaels has called his last game for NBC. Last season, he called that playoff game between the Jags and the Chargers, and word came today that Michaels won't do play-by-play this postseason. NBC broadcasting 3 playoff games, so you have 2 in the wild card round, 1 in the divisional round, with Tirico and Collinsworth calling 2 of those games, Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge handling the other one. I didn't realize, I mean, I knew Al was getting up there. 79, man.
Yeah.
And eating steak at halftime.
I don't like vegetables.
Finds vegetables offensive, which I love. He wants to return to Amazon in 2024, and that would be his third on Thursday Night Football. What week are we in now? 15? Week 15 gets underway with the Chargers and the Raiders on Prime coming up Thursday night.
Rich Eisen, NFL Network. Would the Buffalo Bills suddenly be the most dangerous team in the AFC playoffs if they made it?
Yes. The answer is yes.
I find it funny how like the narrative was like, boy, that Dolphin loss cost him last night. It cost him the number 1 seed. Oh, no. The number 2 seed? Like, they may cost them the 4. You could be going to wild card land.
I love that we were talking about this very scenario yesterday, pretty much all day yesterday.
You were just off the mark.
Just a little off the mark. You know that the NFL and the way it works, that teams like Miami are going to stumble at times. You want to believe that they're real. They're not. They haven't beaten anybody good, and now they can't even beat the bad teams. And Tennessee wasn't good last night. They were bad. They were sloppy.
Oh, my gosh. So how many points did they give them last night? The pick 6 to a lineman, the pitch,
just
the
brutal.
muff.
Yeah, just brutal. Bad, sloppy. I mean, you want to talk about a guy on a hot seat. Vrabel could be on the hot seat, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, every time you see Mike Vrabel on the side, does he just look like he's exasperated? Like nothing is going his way?
He's a meathead.
He's just so... That's a guy that's petulant. Like that guy just has to have it his way or else, and always looks exasperated. Looks like a beefy Jonas brother who didn't get his way. And they still beat Miami. And we were talking about it yesterday. I wrongfully gave them last night. I thought, well, let's assume that they beat Tennessee, but the Jets are going to pose a problem for them. And now with that outcome last night, all that needs to happen for that Week 18 matchup to be for the division, Bills win 2 of 3, Dolphins lose 2 of 3.
Or better yet, and I'll phrase it this way, Buffalo gets by Dallas, and then you've got to beat Easton Stick and Bailey Zappi. If you lose to Easton Stick or Bailey Zappi, then don't talk to me about playoffs or anything. No, that you should be automatically eliminated at that point. So I'll phrase it this way, Danger. Beat Dallas and then one slip up from the Dolphins. And it could be the Jets, it could be the Cowboys, it could be the Ravens.
Yeah. It'll be fun to watch here down the stretch. And last night, with both underdogs winning their games, an entertaining night there with the doubleheader on Monday Night Football. Really enjoyed it. Happy Hour is next. We're also going to talk to Amerks head coach Seth Appert within the next hour, as well as the team is in Springfield for a matchup tomorrow night. We'll get to that and more. We have time for your calls. Let's lean on you here. 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326 if you want to pull up a stool and join us here in the Sports Bar.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Buffalo Bills a 2.5-point favorite over a 10-win Dallas team. That's coming up on Sunday, 4:25. The kickoff. Practice resumes tomorrow. Miami Dolphins losing last night. Today, they signed defensive end Melvin Ingram, helping out that line. Sabres in Colorado on Wednesday. Head coach Don Granato on the changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally different. Those three games last night included are a stark contrast to how we played, just even starting with mindset, playing with urgency.
Sabres beginning a 3-game road trip, as are the Amerks. The Amerks tomorrow night in Springfield. Later this hour, we'll talk to head coach Seth Appert. Kansas City Royals today signing former Mets and Padres reliever Seth Lugo. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
So to sum it all up, guys, Kadarius Toney was offside. Von Miller was offside. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are better now.
Patrick Mahomes acting like that. Spoiled brat. Didn't get his way for once.
I probably regret acting like that, but more than anything, I regretted the way I acted towards Josh after the game because he had nothing to do with it.
The Bills seem to be finding their groove at the right time.
Cowboys coming to town this week.
Mike Danger.
Dallas looks good. There's not a lot to hate about Dallas as they come into Buffalo this weekend.
Gene Battaglia.
Name a hotter team right now than the Dallas Cowboys. This is quite the matchup, but you got to get past Dallas here. How did the Bills do this?
Dallas has not played well on the road. Buffalo's played fairly well at home this year.
The utterly shocking and extremely alarming choke job that the Dolphins pulled off last night.
Touchdown Titans!
It could come down to Week 18. That could be for the division.
What a throw by DeVito!
Tommy Cutlets.
He's Italian, Gino.
Go Sabres.
Let's go Amerks.
Safe is down.
Thank you for listening to the show.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It is happy hour in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia, glad you're with us and listening along. Amerks head coach Seth Appert stops by the sports bar here before 6 o'clock. The team on the road. Matchup with Springfield tomorrow night here on the Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, as then they head out to Providence and Hartford, and then back home coming up next Wednesday. So Wednesday and Friday next week, leading the holiday week. That's kind of cool. So we'll talk to the Amerks head coach here coming up shortly, as there's been some movement. Isak Rosane coming down, which that'll help out, and certainly you want these guys to head back up. Sabres getting a win last night. We'll talk more coming up in shots there about something that kind of funny happened in that game. And we invite your calls here at 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
Appreciate you watching along. The Fan Rochester is on YouTube and on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. You can also get us on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And we're also in the free-to-download Odyssey app, where we sound our absolute best. And if you missed Matt Perino from the Syracuse Post-Standard, that conversation is available for you wherever you get your shows. Again, search out the Sports Bar, and you've got us there. You know that alarms are going off when our buddy Marcel Louis Jacques is on Around the Horn explaining away how bad a loss that was for the Miami Dolphins last night.
It was, if you look at the ESPN analytics, the Titans had a 1% chance to win this game in the fourth quarter. And if you turned it off and you woke up this morning pleasantly surprised, well, yeah, that was as enjoyable a win or a loss for Bills fans in quite some time. Danger, my question to you is, you saw this coming, but you were a week ahead.
Right. The Dolphins do this. And this Dolphins team isn't the same as Dolphins teams of the past 5 years, but there are still some similarities here. And mainly the biggest thing that you notice about this Dolphins team, I'm not saying anything you haven't already heard, they haven't beaten anybody. They haven't beaten up on a good team. They've beaten up on bad teams. Now, what do you do when you can't beat the bad teams? And we all went into last night thinking, Tennessee's not a very good team. Well, Tennessee lost that game last week in overtime to Indianapolis in a way that isn't really a sustainable way to win or lose games, right? Lots of fluky special teams, gaffes and blunders. And you had more of that last night. Tennessee just is a sloppy football team, but they did enough against a Miami team that just kind of slept walk through that game. And the biggest takeaway for me is just how much Tyreek Hill means to that offense. He was out for a good chunk of that game, and while he was out, there was nothing that offense could do against Tennessee.
Yeah, I just thought Tennessee was just so physical. I mean, last night pushing them around, and to think of all those Titan mistakes they made last night, and you throw the dumbest pick six right into the defensive lineman. Okay, 7-0, we're down off the bat, and then some sort of pitch out that didn't work, and then you have another muff. How did Tennessee win that game? Well, I'll tell you why, and it's kind of funny because we all look at Mike McDaniel as being so smart, and he's got. Dude, there was terrible clock management, absolutely horrible clock management. Like, run the ball, run some clock. What are you doing? Get first downs. Like, you should be designing plays. So, to me, the Dolphins have bottomed out here at this point, or have they? Because now you get the Jets coming in, and the Jets on a little bit of a roll.
Yeah, losing to the Jets would be a tough one for, I think, a lot of Dolphin fans. But you've seen this out of this organization in the past. I mean, I can't remember how many years ago it was now, but you remember that last week of the season, the Dolphins come to Buffalo and they have a chance to win and get into the postseason. The Bills are already locked up and they're playing their scrubs late in the game and they still beat the Dolphins. Okay, well, not a lot of heart. Not a lot of heart on that team. And I don't know that that's an indictment on the head coach. I think there's only so much blame you can give to Mike McDaniel. I think it's just, again, dysfunctional organizations are dysfunctional organizations. And the Dolphins have always been that in the Stephen Ross era.
So Tyreek Hill is day-to-day. Their center they lost. Connor Williams has not to be confused with Connor Williams from Victor Big Cozy. This is Miami's Connor Williams. Torn ACL. He's done for the year. And, and then Xavier Howard got dinged last night, too.
Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins had himself a night. I like Will Levis. Will Levis is a freak. He's a freak, Gino.
Yeah, he's going to get himself killed. He can't play the game like that as a quarterback.
He is a freak. That was a lot of fun, but not nearly as much fun as what was going on last night in the Meadowlands.
Me.
Hey, who's that starting at quarterback for the Giants? It's Tommy freaking DeVito, ah! Of course the Giants came from behind. Why? Because he's Italian.
He's molto bene.
Molto bene. Hey, Tommy freaking DeVito. Tommy Cutlets. Love it. Fantastic. Well, I mean, partially seeing Green Bay lose. Like, every time LaFleur loses a game, and he's at the podium afterwards in this press, he looks like he's on the verge of tears. I want to see more of that as a Bears fan.
You're not biased at all.
Not at all.
No,
not at all.
No,
you want unbiased? Go somewhere else. They who would have thought they gave Tommy DeVito too much time? Just a few weeks ago, they didn't want Tommy DeVito throwing the football in this offense. To this week, they gave him too much time. He was poised. He looked good. The Giants, dare I say, are going to have some decisions to make.
The Giants are officially farting around. They're only one game away from the last playoff.
Settle down.
I'm stating facts.
Settle down.
These are facts.
Can you imagine if Tommy DeVito guided them to a... Of course they're a playoff team. He's Italian.
I think that this would be a tough thing for Dino Babers to explain away in any future interview he gets. Like, okay, so you had Tommy DeVito on your roster, yet you didn't really use him?
Well, Babers doesn't end in a vowel. He doesn't quite understand.
Well, neither is anybody in the marketing department at SU, because you should have been all over Rochester.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You get, everybody in my neighborhood go watch Tommy DeVito at Syracuse. Because he's Italian, Gino. He goes home, his mom makes him a chicken parm, Tommy cutlets,
little gabagool,
little mozzarella.
This is Linsanity. The 2023.
Yes,
that's
absolutely. Yeah. And look, if you're a fan of the Giants or Linsanity, the Knicks at the time, you want something to cheer for. This is great. It's fun. And I think he recognizes it for what it is. I think he knows this could be fleeting. I'm going to enjoy it while I can. I'm going to keep grinding. I'm going to keep working. The NFL figures you out. And at some point, Tommy DeVito could become Gardner Minshew. And that might be his ceiling.
But he's earned now how many years in this league as a backup?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because it's what he's shown here, Danger, is actually leadership. When you can kind of humble yourself and kind of adapt to this role, like I'm living at home and whatever, but I'm here for my guys, and you're putting your guys in good positions.
Yeah, he's real. And his teammates recognize that. I saw Thibodeau on the sideline, chatting him up. I'm like, he's, these are guys that were first-round draft picks. These are guys that came into the league with a lot more, that were heralded a lot more than Tommy DeVito was. I mean, the transformation of we don't want you throwing the football against the New York Jets to, hey, he's won 3 games as their starting quarterback. Daniel Jones, next season, what have you done for me lately? Do the Giants find themselves taking a quarterback in round 1 next year? I mean, like, the Giants are going to be fascinating. They're going to be a fascinating story here the rest of the season and through the draft season as well. And Tommy DeVito, at minimum, has earned himself some staying time in the NFL.
I love reporters have agendas sometimes.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know who the reporter was who asked this question to Brian Daboll today, but Brian Daboll was on that Patriots staff the year that Drew Bledsoe got hit and went out and Tom Brady, and somebody asked the question, does this remind you of when Brady became the starting quarterback in 2001?
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, Daboll said, we're 4 games in. And that was it. Like, I appreciate it. Like, does this remind you of... This is where we're at. Like,
yeah.
You wouldn't let the guy throw the ball 4 weeks ago, but, like, now, like, does he remind you of Tom Brady?
I think Daboll has a thing against DeVito. I think that given how he treated him the first moment he got into a game, that Daboll is kind of gritting his teeth through this whole thing.
I don't think it's a Daboll against DeVito. I mean, did you see him light up Tyrod after Tyrod blew the sequence against the Bills?
Yes. Yeah, so the last thing you want is to put him back in the game. But that's the NFL, right? Like, for every Tyrod Taylor that disappears, a Tommy DeVito emerges. Well, they're both Italian, Gino. Tommy DeVito emerges, and now you've got a guy that'll be in the league and a guy that you'll hear his name. He's not a starting quarterback, right? We agree that his skill set is too limited for him to be a long-term viable starting quarterback. I mean, we learned from Gardner Minshew back in the day, did we not?
Let me look at the schedule here.
Stat line wasn't fantastic. I mean, he did a lot with his legs. 71 yards, I want to say, rushing.
I think by the time we're done with this season, it's going to be the glass slipper will be off here, so to speak. They go to New Orleans this week, okay, and then Christmas Day against the Eagles. They're going to need that one. Sorry. Home against the Rams. Rams are farting around too. That's a mini playoff game there, if you will, and then you get the Eagles again. So you get the Eagles 2 times in 3 weeks. Yeah, I don't feel too good about that.
And who was it that kicked the game-winning field with a walk-off field goal? Randy Bullock is still bouncing around from team to team.
Randy Bullock
doesn't look like a football player.
No, he's got a bigger gut than I do.
He looks
what's
like
he doing?
He looks like the old round mound of was it Jared Lorenzen? Remember Jared Lorenzen?
Yeah, the late Jared Lorenzen. Yeah, the hefty lefty.
The hefty lefty. Right. Yeah, that's what every time I see Randy Bullock, that's what I think of, the hefty lefty, Jared Lorenzen. They get the win, 24-22 over Green Bay. So doubleheader last night, Monday Night Football, entertaining, both games down to the wire, with Tennessee coming back in the final few minutes, scoring 14 points to beat the Dolphins. Now, what does that mean for the Buffalo Bills? And we've been saying all season long, circle Week 18. Doesn't matter how far ahead the Dolphins get, Week 18 is the game. Now, when you look at the schedule, when you see how it's playing out, when you see what's in front of both the Bills and the Dolphins, it's a very easy path to get to where that Week 18 game is for the AFC East title.
Yeah, we were talking to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard. If you're wondering, okay, so the Dolphins get the Jets, the Cowboys, and the Ravens. What if they went all 3 and the Bills went 3-0? No, that would not be enough. The Bills, regardless of whatever happens, Week 18 is going to mean something, because even if the Bills somehow leapfrog by one game over Miami, if they split the season series, then the tiebreaker scenario would go to Miami in that case. So, no, you can't clinch the division in Week 17 if you're the Buffalo Bills. You did that to yourself. But that being said, this is the game here, Danger. This is the game. And what you said about Miami, I said this weeks ago. Take 2 of the 3, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Dallas, preferably the Philadelphia one. And while that didn't happen, but if that did happen, we're having a bigger conversation. What I'm saying is now beat Dallas and then beat Easton Stick and Bailey Zappi. Can you handle that part afterward? I would think so. So you're right in position. And all the national pundits I listened to today, wow, the Dolphins, they really cost themselves in the number 1 seed. No, they're costing themselves in the division. I don't think the world is kind of caught up that the pendulum has kind of swung here in Buffalo following that win at Arrowhead.
Well, a win on Sunday against Dallas would certainly help the Bills' odds of making sure that Week 18 game is meaningful. And it's going to be a challenge. Matt Perino joined us joined us in the 3 o'clock hour, gave us some thoughts on how the Bills can get over on Dallas. Dan Orlovsky was great earlier today on One Bills Live. Dan Orlovsky of ESPN talking about what you need to do defensively to stop this Dallas offense that looks like a juggernaut right now.
You got to do 2 things against this offense right now. You got to cover 88. If you can't cover 88, I don't care who you are. And you got to change coverage at the snap exotically. You can't just go from cover 2 to cover 3. You got to get Dak confused, because right now he is firing on all cylinders.
It'll be an interesting chess match between Mike McCarthy, notorious offensive play caller, and Sean McDermott, notorious defensive play caller. Mm-hmm. And we'll see how the Bills match up against those stars of the Cowboys, mainly CeeDee Lamb. But Dak has been playing lights out. He's been playing great. What if Dak Prescott has a clunker in Buffalo, and then are we having a different conversation about who the lead candidate for MVP is? If the Cowboys stumble in Orchard Park.
Yeah, it's right now the weather doesn't look to be much of a factor, but like you get a little bit of a wind. You're hoping for some sort of elements with Dallas coming up here. Another story kind of related to the Buffalo Bills, and this came across today, that Matt Ariza had his suit dropped by the woman.
Civil suit.
Correct. That was accusing him. In return, Ariza dropping his own civil suit. So both cases being dropped. Ariza is making no monetary payment. He reserves the right to sue the woman's attorney. But as I mentioned, he's going to drop his own defamation suit against the woman.
Selfishly, I would love to see the Bills extend that offer to Matt Ariza, because I think as a player, he gives your special teams unit an unfair advantage. He can flip the field. What we saw in the preseason was enough for me. Now, what I don't know is how much has he been working out since all of this has gone on. Is he really what he was coming out of college today? That I don't know. But Sam Martin's just a guy.
What I would like to see is for Brandon Beane to pick up the phone and say, we have a spot on the practice squad. You can be here all off season. And then coming up for training camp next year, we pick up where you left off. Remember, he never even earned a spot on the final roster. He was still just a draft pick. He was going to make it. But that's how I would handle it. Would Matt Ariza just like, you know what? No, you didn't stand by me. If he has a good agent, you would look past that. Honestly, if somebody's willing to give you an opportunity, you take the opportunity, because I don't think it's a given danger like that some other team. There's just too much still surrounding all of this, because the woman here is still suing a couple of the other former SDSU athletes.
Well, we'll monitor that, but that was a bit of news from earlier that the civil suit against Matt Ariza has been formally dropped. Okay. Let's get to a round of shots. Next in the sports bar, we've got Seth Appert, Emmerich's head coach, joining us here before we close up shop. He'll be our guest for Last Call today.
How about Rob Ray last night? He's the hero. Like, that's the turning point in the Sabre season there. That's an example of toughness.
Not that you didn't know this already. Rob Ray, hockey guy. I mean, the guy that was magnificent.
Who's the worst team in the NBA right now? It
Ooh,
does.
It's a toss-up.
Yeah.
You got a couple of good choices there.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of like give you, like, because, like, they have one of the best young players on the team.
There's a couple of really, really bad teams right now, struggling teams right now in the NBA.
And who is Sean Stellato? Sean Stellato made himself a big deal last night.
I know he's Italian. I know that much, Gino. I know he's Italian. We'll get to a round of shots next. Amherst head coach Seth Thapper joining us before 6 o'clock. This holiday season, all your wishes are coming true on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, everything from spreads to player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, to kick off the NFL season with me on FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame moneyline wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Hey, surprise your loved ones this holiday season with a gift of self-care by giving them a gift card from the spa at the Del Monte. A gift card allows that special someone to indulge with one of their signature spa treatments, bask in their salon's services, and treat themselves to the many luxurious products in the spa at the Del Monte's boutique. Visit them at the spa at the Del Monte or purchase a gift card instantly at delmontespa.com, and happy holidays from the spa at the Del Monte.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite team.
Bills players off today. They are a 2.5-point favorite at home against Dallas. It's a 4:25 kickoff coming up on Sunday. Sabres hockey coming up Wednesday. Head coach Don Granato on the changes in his team.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally different. Those 3 games last night included are a stark contrast to how we played, just even in starting with mindset, playing with urgency.
Amherst today practicing in Springfield, so we'll talk to the head coach, Seth Appert. That's coming up here in a little bit here in the Sports Bar. Kansas City Royals today signing former Mets and Padres reliever Seth Lugo. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today you can save on discounted lift tickets to Swain. Great holiday gift ideas. Head on over to GetMyPerks.com. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey is your home for all the audio that matters to you. Download the Odyssey app today to listen to the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
All right, we'll get our weekly check-in from Amherst head coach Seth Appert here before 6 o'clock. First, a round of shots in the Sports Bar.
Buffalo Sabres color commentator Rob Ray is okay. He was looking down at his notes just for a second, not realizing a puck was headed straight for his head, hit him right in the forehead. Now, in case you didn't know, Ray does not sit up in the press box in the broadcast booth. He's actually down on ice level right between the 2 benches. He wiped the blood off with a towel, got a bandage, put it on, kept going, said he was all good.
Yeah.
And return to the broadcast. 5-2, the Sabres winning this again over Arizona. Team already out in Denver. Tomorrow night they'll face Colorado.
I imagine for any ex-athlete, when you get a taste of what you used to deal with on a daily basis, that's such a swift reminder of how much fun that was. To hear Ray say, like, yeah, felt good. Felt like I was playing again. Loved it. It's awesome. I don't know that that's Rob Ray being sarcastic. I think there's a big part of Rob Ray that probably misses being on the ice. I know there is. That misses being on the ice and duking it out and getting cut up and bloodied and mashed.
I viewed it a different way. Where you're saying that's correct, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if that's 3 inches, he loses an eye.
Yeah.
Like he's not looking, he's not paying attention there. So hopefully, that doesn't ever happen again.
Rob Ray, not that you didn't already know this, hockey guy. I mean, just cemented it. That was nails. I loved it.
We got to get him on the show. We've never had Razor, have we?
I don't think we ever have. No, I don't think we ever have.
What will it take?
I'm not sure. I missed my brush with Rob Ray. We could have played in the Gildas Club charity game that we used to play every year.
Oh, yeah.
But that was the year that I tore my ACL.
Oh.
Did you ever hear me talk about how I tore my ACL?
Yeah, once or twice.
Played some hockey while I was playing on a torn ACL. I mean, me and Joe Thornton are basically the same guy.
So why didn't you play when Rob Ray was for charity?
Right after the surgery. Yeah.
Too bad. Get out there. It's not going to hurt you. The way Shohei Ohtani's contract is laid out, it's actually eye-opening. 97% of the dollars being deferred. He's only going to take $2 million as a salary per year for the next 10 years. That is a bargain with a capital B. Well, then the payments start to happen. Between 2034 and 2043, he's going to get paid $68 million per season. $680 million of the $700 million is deferred. Now, the CBA does not place a limit on how much money can be deferred, so that's okay. Teams have to set aside present-day value of the deferred money. In Ohtani's case, around $44 million a year the Dodgers are going to stuff into an escrow account.
It's a remarkable deal. I mean, it's historic in so many ways. But now, if you're Shohei Ohtani, nobody can come back to you and be like, well, it's because of you and your inflated contract that we can't get talent. Like, no, that's not, you're not going to use that as an excuse.
It really is. Like, we want our athletes to be like this. It's all about the winning, and maybe for Ohtani, it's all about his legacy, and he's going to be fine. What they estimate his endorsement dollars, U.S. dollars this year with the Dodgers, $50 million. So you can live off of $52 million a year, I would think. But my question is, and somebody smarter has to explain this to me. With inflation, your money isn't going to be. It's more valuable now than it's going to be in 2043.
That dollar amount in 2043 won't be as impressive as it is
Correct.
right now.
And give me my money now, and I can invest it and make it even more and make decisions. I would rather have my money now.
Yeah, I wonder if Ohtani is just wired differently. That the money is the money, and if I have it now or if I have it 10 years from now, if it's mine, it's mine. It's it's a lot. Obviously, a lot of money. The kind of generational wealth that he'll never have to worry about it for the rest of his life. Not that he was, a $500 million deal would have gotten that done for him. This is insane. But good on the Dodgers and good on Ohtani for getting this deal done the way they did.
San Antonio's Victor Wembanyama, he's really good. He went for 15 points and 18 boards last night, another double-double. Problem is, there is nothing around him. I mean, nothing. The Spurs lost their 17th straight. That is the franchise record. And now, well, they're kind of, peeking around the corner at the all-time record of 28. That was set by the process-era Sixers in 2014. Spurs tomorrow night play at the Lakers. Sidebar. You brought this up earlier. The Lakers are actually raising a banner.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you have to raise a banner for the in-season tournament. That way, when you look at it in Crypto Arena, you'll always appreciate LeBron James.
Do they actually make this a night? Come on out, Laker fans, as we're going to raise the banner.
Yeah, of course. Because, again, as the banner is being raised, it gives you an opportunity to appreciate LeBron James, who now, as a Laker, has not one, but two made-up championships.
That the championship in the bubble indeed was a championship.
Not a real championship.
They played out the season.
Not a real championship. Nope.
Tonight, there are 5 games in the league. Celtics hosting the Cavs. Doubleheader on TNT has those Lakers in Dallas. That's an early start there at 7:30. The Warriors and Suns coming up at 10 o'clock.
Appreciate LeBron.
If you want proof that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver might be losing his grip, let's take a look here at this little squabble between the Knicks and the Raptors. To review, well, the Knicks say one of their former employees left for Toronto, took property and information with him, and the Knicks are suing for punitive damages.
Oh, I don't like this guy. He took proprietary information with him. And then I ran into Charles Oakley at the Madison Square Garden. He threw me down the escalator. I lost my glasses. My shoes fell off. And I'm going to sue the Knicks for punitive damages.
Well, they have Saul Rosenberg up in Toronto where they are threatening to countersue. The Raptors are now saying... The Raptors...
Before Nick Nurse left, he threw me down the stairs at Scotiabank Arena, and then I fell on my ass pipe. And it hurts right now. I'm rubbing it. It hurts, and I'm trying to. I need to sue for punitive damages.
The Raptors are now saying they reserve the right to sue the Knicks for defamatory public statements.
Sue everybody. Sue everybody. Adam Silver, I'm going to sue you. LeBron James, I'm suing you. I appreciate you, but I'm going to sue you for punitive damages. Sue everybody.
I think for talking about this, Mike Danger might get sued too.
Sue Mike Danger. Screw him. He was mean to me. He threw a bottle of beer at me one time. We were at a club. Carlos was the bouncer. He didn't even protect me. And he dumped a beer on my head, and I got beer all over my glasses. Screw that guy. I'm suing him for punitive damages, too.
Finally, we get introduced to the agent for Giants quarterback.
We were at Snappers. It was Snappers on the beach. Remember Snappers? We were there. And he threw me down from the balcony, and I landed on the stage, and I fell on my ass pipe. Oh.
So you did a club night at Snappers.
God, I'm dating myself.
Did you ever do one at Oz? Do you remember Oz?
Oz was in Greece.
Yeah.
Never once.
Never once.
I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
It became... what's over there now?
It's McGregor's now.
It was McGregor's, and I think
that's now something else.
I think McGregor's.
It's a Mexican place now.
Oh,
yeah.
It's been
everything.
New coat of paint. Let's put up a new coat of paint and call it something new this month.
Finally, before the night before I got married, we went over to Oz.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That was
the place. The night before I got married. God, what was the club? It was a hole on Andrews Street, right on the corner of St. Paul and Andrews. It was like in a basement, and the walls were sweaty. It was just dingy and gnarly. And I don't know that I need to relive some of the things that happened that night with all of my buddies from Minnesota and all my cousins and everybody that was in town for that. Yeah, that was something.
Thankfully, you made it to the church on time.
Yeah.
Finally, we got introduced to the agent for Giants quarterback Tommy DeVito, Sean Stellato. He went out full-out cosplay last night, dressed like a gangster for the Monday night game. Someone suggested he looked like one of the guys standing beside Fat Tony on The Simpsons.
I thought for sure. I didn't see this in live real time. I just saw the images and everything after the fact, and I'm like, that's not really his agent, right? That's like his brother or a cousin or something like that. So his agent is playing into the bit, and he's dressing up in the pinstripe suit, and he's looking the part.
No, well, Stellato, in case, let's just confirm, he is of Italian-American descent.
He's Italian.
And I kid you not, talk about timing. Coming up this week, he will be inducted into the National Italian-American Sports Hall of Fame in Chicago.
Of course it's in Chicago. You know what they have in Chicago? A lot of Italians. You get some gabagool, you get some prosciutto, you get some mozzarella. Go get an Italian beef while you're in Chicago. At the Italian-American Sports Hall of Fame, we'll go out back and play some butch. He's Italian.
Nobody's surprised that the Giants are winning with that guy as your quarterback. Everybody knew this day was coming. How do you not? Yeah, that was fantastic. I honestly thought it was a family member. And you know what? The joy that his family is experiencing right now, that's the best part of this, right? You see the family going nuts in the stands, and the agent is a part of it. Like, this is fleeting. It might not last. Enjoy it while you have it. I think the last time we saw this in the NFL, I want to say it's Gardner Minshew.
Oh, this is better than Gardner Minshew.
It is better.
It is way better.
Gardner Minshew was just a weirdo with a mullet and a Fu Manchu who had an interesting, backstory with his old man. This is great.
I'd say, dare I say, Flutie Mania? Like when Doug Flutie, he was probably a better quarterback, but that burned out very quickly.
Right. It's Jeremy Lin. You don't have to even look outside of New York City. It's Jeremy Lin all over again. Linsanity was a thing. It was fleeting, but it was a lot of fun while it happened. And I think at minimum here with Tommy DeVito, you've become Jeremy Lin, and you could have a productive career in the NFL. Maybe not as a starter, but you'll get your shots. I love it. All right, let's take a break and give plenty of time to Amerks head coach Seth Appert, who joins us next in the Sports Bar. We'll get a preview of tomorrow night's matchup against Springfield. Seth Appert next in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan. This holiday season, all your wishes are coming true on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. It's me, Mike Danger, for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Right now, if you're a new customer, you can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, everything from spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Mike, MIKE, and join me this NFL season on FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame moneyline wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issues is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
You're listening to 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
As a team, we're grinding. We're we got to find a little more consistency. Everyone, from the goalies on out. So I think everyone would say the same. Just got to be a bit better, everyone a little bit better, and that'll equate to probably a little more consistent games, a little more sound games, a little safer games. We're high talent. We push the pace. It's awesome. I think if everyone just starting from myself out plays a little better, it'll add up to a little more wins.
Rochester Americans goaltender Dustin Tokarski talking about the state of the Rochester Americans in Springfield. A date with Springfield, the Thunderbirds, tomorrow night here on the Fan Rochester. And as we do every week, a check-in with Amerks head coach Seth Appert during last call here in the Sports Bar. Coach, know that the schedule is busy with the guys and you being on the road. Thanks for making some time for us. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me on.
Seth, how was practice today? So you got on a bus this morning and then practice in Springfield. Is that how it went?
Yes, actually it was excellent. I like practicing on the road if it's in that 4 to 5 hour range. Instead of trying to practice at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. at home, I think getting on the road, letting them have the morning to kind of, do what they want to do on the bus, et cetera, and then have the opportunity to kind of shake the bus legs out, and kind of engage them physically and mentally. So we had a really competitive practice yesterday. They were really good today, and that sets us up to give ourselves a good chance tomorrow.
Seth, we've had kind of a wonky schedule here the last couple of weeks, or at least through the month of December here. You had the one game last week on Friday, did not go well against Charlotte at home, and you're trying to snap a 2-game skid against Springfield. Just want to recap, your thoughts on how this month has started for the team so far.
Yeah, it's hard when you're not playing as much. You can't have excuses. We split in Belleville, and that was fine. We played pretty good both nights. We weren't good enough against Charlotte. They got a really good team. They held Hershey to 14 shots on goal on Sunday. And they have a really good lineup right now, and that's part of the American League. There's times you have a great lineup. There's times the lineup is less. And so, but we weren't competitive enough. And that's something that's been a hallmark of our teams the last couple of years. And, we're not winning enough puck battles. And that's consistent. That's just not Friday. We're not being hard enough to play against. We're a little too easy to play against. And these are growing pains we have to go through. We went through these last year. When you have a young team, some of your newer guys are some of the newer forwards, younger forwards are guys coming over from Europe. They're getting used to the lack of time and space, more physical play, et cetera. But we need Charlotte's leaned on us. They're an older team, 5-6 forwards that have played 100 to 250 games in the NHL, and they just leaned on us. And as the game went on, they just kind of pulled away from us at the end. Now, we had plenty of chances. We could have been in that game, but it wasn't good enough. The guys know that, and we're working to correct it.
Yeah, Seth, I know you're really focused on Springfield, but since we won't talk to you before next, this is a tough trip here. Springfield to Hartford, and then that's not like Wilkes-Barre is right around the corner from Hartford. That's a tough trip to do in one day from Friday to Saturday. So how do you kind of measure this? Are you going to do that thing where you get out of Hartford and try to split up the trip there a little bit heading over to Pennsylvania?
No, we'll go straight through that night. If the Lehigh, some of the trips, if they get into like the 4.5, 5 hour range, we try to go halfway. Wilkes is like 3:15, 3:20 from Hartford, so we'll go all the way. But it's a hard trip, but our focus on Springfield, it is. It's a demanding trip. You got 3 older teams, 3 teams that are playing pretty good hockey. Hartford's playing excellent. And they're older, heavy teams. And you're on the road. And, we're a little short-manned in the blue line. We need some guys to step up. We got Prow, and that's the outs. We got, Johnson that's been up for a while now. And so we got some younger guys, Novikov and Jandrik and Savoie, that are going to need to step up and eat some minutes and play a really good games for us this weekend to allow us a chance to have to win these games.
Seth, we started our conversation with a little bit of sound from goaltender Dustin Tokarski, where if I close my eyes, I actually hear Seth Appert. I don't hear Dustin Tokarski. So you've done a good job in coaching him up. He's saying all the right things. But talk a little bit about what you got going on between the pipes now that we've seen that it looks like Devin Levi's time in the AHL might be short-lived.
Well, getting good for Devin, right? He
Yeah.
came down here with a great attitude, played 2 good games, went back up and has forced their hand to keep him with his play. And that's what you want all your players to do. So that's good on him. I got a ton of belief in Dustin Sikarsky and Devin Cooley. That's something I addressed with our team yesterday. A pretty strong meeting, and this isn't a goalie problem. This is a team defense problem, and that's not our D-core either. This is everybody. And it starts with not winning enough puck battles, and because no matter what the D-zone system is, no matter how much you work on your D-zone, if you spend too much time in the D-zone, bad things happen. And right now we're spending too much time in our defensive zone because we're not winning enough puck battles, and so teams are leaning on us too much. So, we just have to change that. We changed it last year. This was real similar to this time last year, and probably similar to the year before. We've had young teams, and they need to learn the physical commitment you need to have to be a good hockey team.
Yeah, Seth, another week, another roster move. So Brett Murray goes up. Isak Rosane comes back down. He's been great with your club, but did not have a point in 7 games with Buffalo. So as he comes back, what are you looking for out of your young player here?
Well, I think with Rosie, I thought Rosie, 2 or 3 of his games up there, he was excellent. He's just not getting enough minutes. They're in a must-win. They're in a win-now situation, and so it's harder. It's a harder situation to go into for those young forwards right now than it was two years ago with Quinn and Peterka and those guys, because back then it was just play the kids and let's get better. Now it's win, right? So, I think that there's games Rosie maybe had earned the right to play more, but you're a coach and you're trying to win. You're Danny Granato, and you're going to go with guys you trust in big moments, and that makes sense. And so I think Rosie gained a lot of knowledge, a lot of information. He gained a lot of belief in himself up there. He knows. He took great insight away from his experience. And he came down and he's had 2 excellent practices, and he'll be outstanding for us. He's got no pout, no mope in him at all. He came down here with a real mindset of what he's got to get better at to stay there. And good for Brett Murray. It's been 2 years. He's been a horse for us. He's been one of our most important players. And to go up there last night, I thought he was excellent in the first period, was physical, had 4 or 5 big hits, helped them start the game on time. That's been they've had some bad first periods up there, and I thought his first period gave them a lot of energy, and obviously it was a good win for the Sabres. So I was really happy for Brett.
And quickly, Coach, how damaging is it when you're a player that starts the season in the AHL, gets the call up, but then doesn't get on the ice and ends up being game day inactives? Is that missed opportunity when you could be playing more minutes in the AHL rather than sitting in the box?
Well, those are things we talk about all the time, myself and Kevin and Jason Carmanos and Donnie. It's different when you're Brett Murray or Rusek or Weisbach or Byro. You've had enough games in the American League over the last couple of years. You're a couple hundred games in or whatever it is into your career. I think you can deal with that. When you're Rosane or Kulik or Johnson or those guys, Levi, that's why Levi came down. Yeah, they're young pros, and they need to play. And if they're playing in the NHL, great. And if they're not playing in the NHL, usually then that means it's time to come to Rochester and get your minutes down here.
Seth, have you seen the sweaters you'll be wearing here for the Freeze game coming up here when you're back in town?
I have not. No, I have not seen the sweaters. But all I know is that every third jersey we wear, I think, is outstanding. Our people do a phenomenal job in the creation of those, so I assume it's extremely sharp.
It is sharp. It's sharp. Seth, thank you so much for your time. We know how busy your schedule there is on the road. Good luck tomorrow night, in Springfield, and we'll talk again next week.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach, joining us here during Last Call as we wrap things up in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. If you missed Matt Perino from the Syracuse Post-Standard, find that wherever you get your podcast. Just search out the sports bar. Tomorrow, we get you some winners from the host of BetQL's Send It In, as he does every Wednesday afternoon. PJ Glasser, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, stops by, and Insider Calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
Yeah, maybe we'll have some Can we go back to McDermott McLeise? Can we have some fun tomorrow?
Yeah, we can have some fun tomorrow. We'll see you at 3 tomorrow in the sports bar on the Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.